When I stepped on Oscar's fingers, he turned pale with pain, but he gritted his teeth and pretended to be unconscious. Go on, then. I sneered and stepped hard, and the sound of bones cracking was clearly audible. William! Mother Dora rushed over, pushed me away, and protected Oscar with trembling hands. He is your brother. How could you bear it? Brother? I sneered. Dora, do you still remember that I am your biological son? She stared at me, her eyes full of defense. Oscar is my real child. If you still remember that I am your mother, then transfer the evil spirit to yourself. Seeing her kneeling and crying, I laughed out loud. Okay, since you care about him so much, transfer the 300 million first, and then we can talk about this deal. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you like this story, please share and let me know in the comment section. I will update the next part. Chapter 160. Dora, you are not even a human being. After working overtime, I came home, and just as I entered the door, I heard a piercing howling sound coming from upstairs like ghosts and wolves howling. Recently, this sound has been tormenting me every day, and it has made me want to live in the company directly. Since returning to the capital, my family has been to all the big hospitals to find out what Oscar's strange disease is, but nothing has been found. We asked the master to come, but he just said some nonsense about possession by a ghost. Do you really think I'm being taken advantage of? Not only did the money hurt, but the boy's condition didn't improve at all. Every day at home, he was in so much pain and Dora was crying and wailing. To be honest, as an old father, my heart was almost broken by this. The company is also in a mess, and the business is a mess recently. My mind is like a mess. I went home to have some peace and quiet, but when I saw the mother and son like this, my little patience was instantly drained. Especially every time I see Oscar, I get furious. His dirty deeds drove William away, and once our cash cow left, the company was half dead. Thinking of this, I had no mood to stay, so I closed the door and left. Fiona, who was sitting on the sofa, saw this scene and sneered. She chewed an apple and walked upstairs briskly. The crying upstairs became more and more shrill, but her mood became happier. When she reached the door of Oscar's room, she deliberately cleared her throat and said loudly, "There are still ghosts howling in the middle of the night. If you don't sleep, I must sleep." Dora turned around with tears on her face. When she heard David was gone, she immediately asked in a sharp voice, "Where's your dad? Did he invite the master back?" "My dad?" Fiona raised her eyebrows. "He just came back and left again. When he heard your duet, he turned and ran away." She changed the subject and said sarcastically, "Oscar, you've been howling like a ghost every day, scaring the dog next door into depression. Why don't you just move out? Do you have no heart?" Dora was so angry that her face turned blue. "Oscar is your brother. Are you so cold-blooded?" "Brother?" Fiona sneered. "My brother's name is William, not Oscar." Dora couldn't stand it anymore and rushed over to teach her a lesson, but she stumbled and the person in her arms fell down, screaming heartbreakingly. The room was in chaos. At this time, Chen Huaimin came over after hearing the noise. She frowned and said, "Seventh sister, stop making trouble." Then she went into the house to help the person. Oscar endured the pain and whispered to Dora, "Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't control my emotions just now. Don't be angry." Dora's anger was instantly extinguished, and with a look of heartache on her face, she asked someone to help him onto the bed. However, at this moment, Chen Huaiming mentioned William and suggested going to him for help. Hearing this, Fiona's face suddenly changed, and she grabbed Chen Huaiming and said angrily, "No one is allowed to disturb William. He doesn't owe us anything." Her eyes were cold, and she continued to say word by word, "Oscar deserves it. If he hadn't designed to drive William away, would we be reduced to this situation now?" Dora was furious and raised her hand to slap him. But Fiona sneered and touched her face with deep mockery in her eyes. "Good hit. The harder you hit, the clearer it is to me that you are the ones who harmed William." Chapter 161. Finding William's address. "Get out! Get out of here! You wicked daughter, get out of this house. I don't have a daughter like you." The slap was loud, and my cheek was burning with pain. I touched my rapidly swelling face and looked at Dora with a sneer. "What? Are you angry out of shame? Am I wrong? For a vicious adopted son, you can abandon even your own son, and you still have the nerve to tell me to get out." Having said that, I raised the corner of my mouth and poked her heart hard. "Why should I get out? I stay to see how you will regret it in the future." Dora was so angry that she was shaking all over, and she kept cursing "rebellious girl" but I didn't care anymore. I turned my head to look at the hesitant Chun Huaiming and said coldly, "Second sister, if you go to find Brother William for that ungrateful bastard, don't blame me for not recognizing you." After saying that, I turned around and left without looking back. Behind me, Oscar whispered with resentment that he couldn't suppress, "Why doesn't this bitch just die?" After I left, Dora immediately grabbed Chun Huaiming's hand and said, "Huaiming, go find out where William lives." "I want to find him." "Mom, do we really have to do this?" Chun Huaiming hesitated. "Didn't we already find him before?" He didn't want to help at all. "Now, even you don't listen to me, right?" Dora was so angry that her face turned blue. "I'll ask you again. Are you going or not?" Chun Huaiming had no choice but to agree in a low voice when he saw the determination in his mother's eyes. "Okay, I'll go ask." She went out with her phone and came back soon after, saying in a low voice, "Mom, I found out. William lives in Villa number 16, Chongyuan." "Chongyuan?" Dora's eyes widened. "That Chongyuan?" Chun Huaiming nodded. "Yes. Aunt Tian went to Brother William's place after she resigned. Aunt Tian's relatives told me." Dora was silent for a moment, then snorted coldly. "Humph, this little beast is really capable. He can actually afford to live in Chongyuan." "Mom," Chun Huaiming sighed, "stop calling him a little beast. I'm going to call him that. He doesn't deserve to be my son. He lives in a mansion but doesn't care about the life and death of his biological mother. He has no conscience." "Okay, Mom, now's not the time to worry about this. Let's think about what to say when we go to William tomorrow." "Why wait until tomorrow?" Dora interrupted her. "Ah, what do you mean by not waiting until tomorrow?" Chun Huaiming was stunned. "You don't want to go now, do you?" "Of course. Your brother is dying of pain. If you ask William for help sooner, he will suffer less. But it's already past 1 o'clock. Brother William must have gone to bed a long time ago. Wake him up if he's asleep. Oscar hasn't slept for a few days. What's wrong with him sleeping a little less?" Chun Huaiming looked at his mother and felt uneasy. "Mom, now we are asking William for help. This is not a good idea, right? He'd better agree." Dora sneered, her eyes full of obsession. "Otherwise, I will die in front of him. I gave him his life. How dare he watch me die?" Chapter 162, Illegal Control. As soon as I closed my eyes, the phone rang. I looked at the screen and picked up the phone reluctantly, but the news on the phone made my heart skip a beat. "What? She's going to find me? Is your mother crazy?" I frowned, my voice full of disbelief. Chun Huaiming's low voice came from the other end of the phone. "She has no choice. Oscar is in too much pain. How does she know where I live?" I suppressed my anger and continued to ask. I asked for her." Her voice was weak. "Why did you tell her?" I exploded. "Don't you know that she would only cause trouble if she came to see me?" There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, with only faint sobs. I sighed and tried to keep my voice down. "Okay, where is she now? Tell me the details." Chongyuan, the guard wouldn't let her in. She was very emotional and called the police. "Call the police?" I growled through gritted teeth. "Does she think her home isn't messy enough?" As soon as I finished speaking, a lazy female voice came from the side. "What's wrong? Who disturbed you?" Hearing this voice, the atmosphere on Chun Huaiming's end grew colder. "Dad, is there a woman by your side?" "No." I quickly covered the phone and waved to the people around me. "You heard wrong. Wait a minute. I'll be there soon." After hanging up the phone, I was in a state of confusion. I casually responded to the woman on the bed, grabbed my clothes, and rushed out. I cursed in my heart. Why haven't they let me go at this time? When I arrived at Chongyuan, the entrance was already in chaos. The flashing lights of the police car made me even more irritated. "Who called the police?" I heard the police's voice, and Dora rushed over immediately. "Police comrade, my son is being controlled by someone. You have to help me rescue him." She looked like a victim. I almost couldn't help laughing when I heard this. What era is this? She still uses such low-level methods? Illegal control? I walked forward with a sneer. "Comrade police, I think Mrs. Chun is not here to save people, but to cause trouble, right?" The police looked at me suspiciously. "What's going on?" "This is my house. I live alone. How can it be illegal control?" I spread my hands helplessly. "Don't believe it? I can show you the property certificate at any time." Hearing this, the police stared at Dora with a frown. "Madam, are you making a false report?" Dora's face immediately changed, and she explained in a panic. I was just too anxious. I didn't know when he bought the house." "You don't know?" I raised my eyebrows and said sarcastically, Mrs. Chun, I have said it before. I'm just an orphan. What does it have to do with your Chun family? William! A deep shout broke the deadlock, and David rushed in breathlessly, with anger on his face. What on earth do you want to do? Do you have to turn the family upside down before you're satisfied? I glanced at him indifferently. What can I do? It's your Chin family who puts on a big drama every day, and it never ends. William, we are here to ask for your help. He lowered his voice, with obvious plea for peace in his tone. Beg me, I sneered. Are you worthy? After saying that, I turned around and went upstairs without looking back, blocking them outside the door. Chapter 163, 300 million. As soon as I entered the room, I saw David, with an angry face, bowing his head and apologizing to the police. Comrade police, I'm really sorry to trouble you with my family affairs so late at night. I will apologize to Director Chun in person later. His attitude made it difficult for the police to say much. They just gave Dora a few symbolic words of education, then waved and left. As soon as the police left, David's fake smile disappeared instantly, and anger was written all over his face. What are you making trouble for? Go back home. Oscar also immediately pretended to be pitiful. Mom, let's go back. I won't treat you anymore. Please don't quarrel with Dad. Dora did not back down. Go back? Oscar is in terrible pain, and you, as a father, don't care about anything. Now you don't even come home. Who else can I count on? She was aggressive, with an attitude of I must solve the problem today, which made David feel guilty. Oscar, who was lying there pretending to be nice, sighed, and then turned to me with a tangled look on his face. William, or can you help me? Help! I raised my eyebrows and pretended to be puzzled. Mr. Chun, you are so rich. Why do you need help from an orphan like me? No, isn't Master Ching Fu on good terms with you? Can you help to talk to him and save Oscar? He cautiously probed, even with a hint of pleading in his tone. Oh, so this time he's here to ask for help. I sneered in my heart, but on the surface I showed an expression of seriously considering it. Dora next to her also quickly responded. William, Mom is begging you. As long as you save Oscar, Mom will definitely compensate you well and will never treat you unfairly. Her face was full of humility and desire, completely different from her previous arrogance. I glanced at them and asked softly, Where is Wu Wei? Doesn't he have a good relationship with Oscar? Why didn't he help? I don't know where that damn Taoist priest is hiding. We can't get in touch with him, even if we called him. Dora said angrily. Hearing this, I couldn't help but sneer in my heart. Wu Wei, this guy, probably thought Oscar was worthless and just ran away. However, none of this mattered. Since they were willing to beg on their knees, I would see how far they could kneel. Okay, I can help, I said calmly, but I have conditions. David's eyes lit up, as if he had seen a life-saving straw. You tell me, as long as you can do it, I will definitely agree. 300 million. I uttered the 3 words slowly, with a faint smile on my lips. This offer instantly froze the atmosphere in the room for a few seconds. 300 million. David's voice suddenly rose, and his expression froze. William, you are taking advantage of the situation. Dora widened her eyes and cursed with gritted teeth. I smiled and spread my hands. Didn't you ask me to name the price? I thought you were willing to give it. The Chun family has tens of billions of assets. Isn't 300 million a drop in the bucket? After saying that, I looked at Oscar with a look full of sarcasm. Or in your hearts, Oscar is not even worth 300 million? Oscar's heart like a knife. His face turned red instantly, and he gritted his teeth and couldn't say a word. Chun Huiming next to him whispered, William, isn't this too much? Mom and Dad can't come up with so much money in a short time. I glanced at her and said coldly, Can't you come up with the money? Aren't you the eldest daughter of the Chin family? You must have tens of millions of private money, right? If it really doesn't work, you can pay for it first? Chen Huiming's face froze and she was speechless. I don't have that much. If you don't have money, shut up. I didn't bother to pay attention and said to Annie Tian, Get out. Seeing that they were still unwilling to give up, I sneered and added, If you don't leave, I will call the police and sue you for trespassing. William. Dora was so angry that she jumped up and down, wanting to strangle me to death. I'm your mother. Sorry, I said coldly. I'm an orphan. Seeing them so angry and helpless, I felt happy. 300 million is a price for them, but for me, it is just an entry ticket to the game. Chapter 164. Ghost chi cannot be eliminated, but it can be transferred. What do you mean by 330 million? Chun Lang strode into the villa yard with an angry look on her face. She had obviously rushed here after receiving a call from Chun Huaiming, and she also used her friend's connections to sneak into this high-end community. I leaned on the sofa, glanced at her coldly, and said nothing. Chun Huaiming immediately ran over and briefly recounted what happened. After listening, Chun Lang's face turned dark. William, what gives you the right to ask for such a high price? She snorted coldly. 300 million. Do you think we are being taken advantage of? Ask Master Ching Fu to come over, and we can negotiate the price ourselves. I raised my eyebrows and sneered, saying with disdain, Who do you think you are? How dare you give orders to my family? After saying that, I turned to David and Dora and said in a cold voice, 300 million, not a penny less. Do you want to treat him or not? Give me a straight answer or get out. Dora's tears immediately fell like beads from a broken string, and she turned her head repeatedly to look at David. Hubby, Oscar will really die if he continues like this. She cried and begged, looking pitiful. Mom, this is 300 million. Chun Lang stamped her feet in anger. You can't be so irrational for Oscar. Shut up. Dora pushed her away. It's not your money. I just want Oscar to get better. Chun Lang was so angry, but there was nothing she could do, so she could only glare at me angrily. David sighed, his eyes wandering between the few of us, and finally said helplessly, Okay, William, these 300 million can be regarded as compensation for the letdown that your parents have shown you over the years. Hearing him say this, I couldn't help but sneer. Compensation? I sneered. My tone became even colder. Sorry, I don't need your compensation. This is just a reward. Don't talk about those nonsense. David's face sank instantly, and his breathing stagnated. It was obvious that he was choked by me. Okay, it's a reward, Dora interrupted hurriedly. As long as you are willing to help, everything is fine. Hurry up and call Master Ching Fu over. But I raised my hand slowly, with a lazy tone. No hurry. Transfer the money to my account first. Dora was so angry that her teeth were clattering, but she had no choice but to bite the bullet and transfer the money with David. My phone vibrated, and I glanced at the message, and the corners of my mouth curled up slightly. Mr. and Mrs. Chun really spent a fortune for an adopted son. 300 million is enough to be a joke if you tell anyone about it. Stop talking nonsense. Dora was furious. I've already given you the money. Call someone. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to say, I looked at them lazily, but my tone was as sharp as a knife. Ching Fu can't get rid of the ghost spirit. What? Dora almost jumped up, her face instantly filled with anger. Don't be anxious. I smiled calmly and indifferently. Although the ghost energy cannot be eliminated, it can be transferred. You can discuss now who to transfer it to. As soon as these words came out, the whole room suddenly fell silent, and everyone was stunned. Transfer. Dora's voice was so sharp that it seemed to be torn apart. William, are you kidding us? You are saying this only after you have received the money. Yes. Chun Lang was not to be outdone. Mom, call the police. This guy is clearly a scam. It's up to you. I spread my hands nonchalantly. It's just 300 million. I don't take it seriously. If it can't be cured, I can refund the money. My words silenced them instantly, and their faces looked uglier than crying. William, you must be taking revenge on me? Dora gritted her teeth. There's no such thing as ghost energy that can only be transferred. Believe it or not. I shrugged. If it can't be cured, return the money immediately and don't waste my time. Oscar's face turned even paler, and there was a layer of despair in his eyes. He obviously understood that these people were all selfish, and no one would be willing to share his pain. So he said weakly, Mom, forget it, I don't want to be treated. You silly child, Dora cried like a tearful person. You are willing to do anything for your family. How can your mother watch you suffer? Don't be afraid, brother. Fourth sister has a way. Chun Lang suddenly spoke. What's the solution? Oscar's eyes flashed with a glimmer of hope. William, transfer the evil spirit to yourself. Come home. Mom will take care of you personally and give you another 50 million. Hearing this, I almost laughed out loud and looked at her sarcastically. Chun Lang, are you crazy? Or are you always so funny? Do you think that I would care about your 50 million just because I can live in this villa? Don't be so stubborn. Chun Lang insisted. How old are you? How can you afford to live here? Isn't 50 million an astronomical figure for you? I narrowed my eyes and my tone became completely cold. You mean my life, William, is cheaper than Oscar, right? Chapter 165, Transfer the Evil Spirit to Me. Chun Lang said as if it was a matter of course. William, don't think too much. I'm doing this for your own good. 50 million. And you can get the respect and gratitude of our entire family. Most importantly, I can guarantee that after the ghost energy is replaced, I will ask my friends to help you find a more powerful master to completely solve the problem. She said with a firm tone, as if she was stating a self-evident fact. I looked at her confident look and couldn't help laughing out loud. Chun Lang, do you think this is a meeting in your crappy company? You dare to give me instructions? How about this? I'll pay 100 million and let the evil spirit transfer to you. Then, I'll find a master to help you solve the problem completely. How about that? Chun Lang's face turned pale in an instant. William, are you crazy? I'm your sister. How can you bear to make me suffer? I sneered and asked back. Then how can you be so heartless to make me suffer? Oh, so you are afraid of pain too? Or is the deep sister-brother relationship between you and your brother Oscar fake? My words hit the nail on the head, leaving Chun Lang speechless. Don't come up with any high-sounding excuses. I said in a cold tone. If you really care about Oscar, now is the time to show it. Why? You back off when it comes to you? She opened her mouth as if she wanted to refute, but in the end she only managed one sentence. My company is in a critical period recently. If I am affected, I may lose tens of billions. Tens of billions? I chuckled. Your company hasn't even made a game yet, and you have the nerve to mention such a number? I was too lazy to waste time with them, so I pointed at the sofa and said, I'll give you 3 minutes to decide whether to treat the disease or not, and who the evil spirit will be transferred to. By the way, I paused and added, don't think about finding just anyone to replace it. The transfer of ghost energy requires a deep relationship between both parties. After saying that, I sat down leisurely, waiting to see this family fight. Dora was in tears. She first glanced at Chun Lang, then walked towards Chen Huaiming and grabbed her hand. Ming Ming, you have been the kindest and most sensible since you were a child. Please help your brother this time. Mom! Chen Huaiming looked at her in disbelief. If Oscar can't feel pain, why can I? Or do I have to be sacrificed just because I'm sensible? Her voice trembled a little, and her eyes turned red instantly. Meng. Dora's tone was pleading. Your brother has been in pain for so long. If it continues, Mom is afraid he can't bear it. What about me? Chun Huaiming bit her lip, tears almost falling from her eyes. Her heart grew colder, and her voice became colder. Mom, there is Dad and fourth sister here. Why are you only asking me? Is it because I am obedient that I am not important in your eyes? How can you think like that? Dora burst into tears. Mom really has no other choice. Chun Huaiming shook her head, her eyes full of disappointment. Mom, you disappoint me so much. Originally, I was willing to help Oscar, but your actions made me feel disappointed. She turned her head away and ignored Dora. I watched this farce and said with a smile, Chun Huaiming, aren't you the kindest and most saintly person? How come it's your turn to give up your good brother just because of a small thing? My words pierced her heart like needles and made her tremble slightly. She was filled with shame, but still refused to waver. It's not that I'm selfish, it's just that this matter is too horrible. I save lives and heal the wounded every day. How can I be tortured by ghosts? Chen Huaiming, what do you mean? Dora's face was filled with anger. I'm your mother. Can I ask you to give a little for your brother? Mom, that's enough. Oscar suddenly spoke, trying to calm the situation. He smiled bitterly with a sensible look on his face. Second sister, don't blame yourself. I won't blame you. You are busy saving people every day. How can I let you sacrifice for me? Chun Huaiming was stunned for a moment, and a trace of gratitude flashed in his eyes. Oscar turned to Dora and said in a low and weak voice, Mom, I don't want treatment anymore. Take the money back, and you can live a good life. I'm already very satisfied to be your child in this life. Oscar, what are you talking about? Don't let it get to you. Dora hugged him in panic, tears streaming down her face. Mom, I'm in so much pain, I just want to give myself some relief. You don't have to blame my sisters. When I'm gone, you can bring your brother back and live a good life. No, Mom won't let anything happen to you. Dora's tears burst out like a flood. She turned and walked towards me, gritting her teeth and saying, William, transfer the evil spirit to me. Chapter 166. Oscar fainted. William heard this, his eyebrows raised slightly. Sure enough, things were exactly as he guessed. No matter how much the Chun family dotes on Oscar, they will instinctively retreat when it comes to sacrifice. Except for Dora. This woman's sincerity to Oscar is so clear that the sun and the moon can testify to it. David couldn't understand her efforts. He pulled Dora away from Oscar, his tone full of anger and confusion. Dora, are you crazy at your age? Can your body bear it? You are looking for death. What should we do? Dora looked at David with tears in her eyes. If you don't transfer the blame to me, are you going to watch Oscar die? Or are you willing to come? Aren't you afraid that I'll die? David's face suddenly darkened, and his tone was filled with disbelief. I'm afraid. Dora's tears kept falling. So I never thought of asking you to do this. William watched their absurd conversation and couldn't help but sneered. Chun Huaiming, did you hear that? Your mother is not afraid of your death. She came to you first without even thinking about it. Chun Huaiming's face turned pale instantly, and her body trembled slightly, as if she had been stabbed in the chest. She whispered, so, in her heart, am I so insignificant? Shut up, Dora yelled at William angrily. Hurry up and start. Dora, are you sure? David gritted his teeth and said in a cold voice, do you know what you are doing? Chun Lang hesitated and didn't speak. She was worried that if she objected, the target would be transferred to herself. But she was secretly happy in her heart. If Dora was willing to sacrifice, it would just allow Oscar to recover and help her new project to continue. Oscar was lying on the ground, but his mind was thinking quickly. If he accepted Dora as sacrifice, David's impression would only be worse, which would be detrimental to his future position in the Chin family. He whispered, Mom, no. You can't do this for me. You are old, and I don't want you to bear this kind of pain. Don't be afraid. Mommy doesn't feel any pain. Dora cried and coaxed him. Oscar, be obedient. I really can't. Oscar covered his chest, and suddenly his body went limp and he fell to the ground, pretending to be unconscious. Oscar! Dora screamed and quickly hugged him, her face full of panic. William walked forward, glanced down at him, and sneered. No need for Master Ching Fu. I can see it at a glance. He is fine. What do you mean? David asked, frowning. What else can it mean? William shrugged. This kid is pretending to be dizzy. He wants to appear great and wants you to help him solve the problem. So he pretends like this. William, shut up, Dora yelled. You are not allowed to speculate about Oscar with such vicious thoughts. Vicious. William sneered and stepped on Oscar's finger. If I use more force, I'll see if he can keep pretending. Oscar was sweating from the pain, and his fingers felt like they were hit by a hammer. But he gritted his teeth and refused to say a word. Dora, look at your good son. He is so tenacious. I guess there is no need to transfer his evil spirit. His fingers will be broken first. William increased his strength. Dora rushed over and pushed his feet away. Enough! William, if you do this again, I will really not let you go. Okay, William spread his hands. Since you were so willing, I will fulfill your wish. But I have to remind you, don't regret your choice. Call someone. Dora's tone was full of determination. Dora, David was furious. If you really want to do this, we will get divorced. I won't care even if you die of pain. Whatever you want, Dora said without turning her head. William, call someone. Okay, you're crazy. You're really crazy. David's face turned pale, and he turned away angrily. Chapter 167. Look, your biological mother is willing to die for me. Dora, I'll ask you one last time. You volunteered to let me help you transfer the evil spirit from Oscar to yourself, right? I looked at the talisman in my hand and stared at her seriously. This kind of thing cannot be done without confirmation. The interference of the heavenly way in family affection will not let a heavenly master off easily. Dora nodded without hesitation, her eyes so firm that it made people a little stunned. Let's start. I handed her the talisman and said calmly, 2 talismans, one on your chest and one on your precious son's chest, then hold his hand. She took the talisman and hesitated. Is it that simple? Where is Master Ching Fu? I spent so much money. Why can't he do it himself? Don't worry. I chuckled. Master Ching Fu said that if we fail, the 300 million will be refunded. After hearing this, she seemed relieved and followed my instructions to paste the talisman neatly. She held Oscar's hand and urged, Can we start? Of course, I said coldly. I hope you are mentally prepared for the pain. The talisman flashed with golden light, and I pinched my fingers and chanted a spell. A ray of heavenly master's power flowed out from my fingertips, passed through the talisman, and connected with their breath. The black air in, Oscar's chest gradually gathered and finally condensed into a fist-sized mass and drilled into Dora's talisman. Dora frowned slightly. Her face changed slightly, and a chill came over her body. But she gritted her teeth and endured it. She only felt cold, but not painful. It seems I can bear it. She forced a smile at the corner of her mouth, turned her head and looked at Oscar, her eyes full of tenderness. Son, don't be afraid. It won't hurt anymore. She gently stroked his face, her tone full of maternal love piercing people's ears. At this time, Oscar slowly opened his eyes, with a hint of panic in his eyes, and then he seemed to realize something and sat up suddenly. Mom, did you really transfer the evil spirit to yourself? His tone was full of heartbroken reproach. It's okay, Mom doesn't feel any pain at all. Dora comforted him, with a gentle smile on her face. No. Oscar knelt down in front of me. The pain and regret on his face were perfect. Brother, please, turn back. Mom is so old. She can't bear this pain. Just turn back to me. I looked down at his genuine expression and almost couldn't help laughing. Sure, I said casually. Of course I have to meet the customer's request. I will transfer it back to you immediately. Oscar's expression froze. Obviously, he didn't expect me to agree so straightforwardly. But he quickly regained his composure, turned his head, and looked at Dora, his eyes showing a layer of helplessness and regret. Mom, quickly tell my brother that he doesn't need to come back. I can't let you go through this. Son, Mommy is really fine, don't worry. Dora held his hand tightly, her tone gentle but firm. After that, she stood up with Oscar and left without looking back. When Oscar walked to the door, he turned back to look at me, with a hint of provocation in his eyes, as if to say, Look, I am her biological child. I sneered and muttered, Idiot. After the room returned to calm, Ching Fu came out from the corner and looked at me with a worried look on his face. Master, are you okay? I raised the phone in my hand and laughed softly. With 300 million in hand, what can I do? Who will suffer a fate worse than death in the future? It won't be me. Ching Fu lowered his head, his face full of complicated expressions. Master, it's really not worth it for the Chun family to treat you like this. It doesn't matter whether it's worth it or not. My voice was calm without a trace of ripples. Anyway, it's impossible for us to reconcile. Oh, right. I suddenly thought of something and asked, Do you think Oscar is a strange person? Ching Fu was stunned, then nodded. His face is covered by someone. I can't see through it. Well, I can't see through it either. I looked at him with a slightly focused gaze. The person behind this is probably not a simple person. Then what should we do? Ching Fu frowned. Do we need to check it out? Go and find out who is behind Wu Wei. As for Ling Su, if you can't find him, forget it. We can deal with him when we meet him. I understand, Master. Ching Fu nodded and left, and I stood in front of the window with a deep look in my eyes. Hatred is a shackle, but how easy is it to let go? The Chen family and I are destined to fight to the death. Chapter 168, Let her pain for a few days. Before Dora arrived at Chen's house, the pain caused by the ghost spirit invading her body began to flare up. Oscar's finger, which was stepped on by William, was swollen like a carrot. The four of them went to the hospital together. After examination, Dora was in exactly the same condition as Oscar. Although the pain was unbearable, there were no other problems. Oscar's finger was fractured by William. He bandaged it before returning to the ward. After all, Dora was in so much pain because of him. Even if he was upset, he had to insist on staying with her. But Dora was worried about his injured finger, so she sent him outside to sleep. He declined several times and then went down the stairs. After all, he hasn't had a full night's sleep since the ghost spirit invaded his body. He is really sleepy. He slept soundly and contentedly until he was woken by a phone call at noon the next day. He glanced at the incoming call number, his face darkened, and after answering the call, he gritted his teeth and whispered, Are you here to confirm whether I am still alive? Half an hour later, he quietly slipped out of the ward and came to a small garden behind the hospital. It was lunchtime, and there were only a few people in the garden. There was only one person sitting on a bench in the corner of the garden. The person looked to be no more than 35 or 36 years old, with long hair tied behind her head and secured with a wooden hairpin. Oscar walked over and asked tentatively, Are you Master Xuanyu? Shen Yu turned around and glanced at Oscar with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Have you gotten rid of the ghost energy in your body? Oscar nodded, then shook his head. What does this mean? Shen Yu asked with a frown. There is no ghost energy in me anymore, but it is not removed, but transferred. Transferred. Yes, it was transferred to my mother. Who helped you transfer? Ching Fu. Xianyu was somewhat surprised. Ching Fu actually has such a skill? Oscar nodded, then asked. Master Xuanyu, where is Master Wu Wei? Where did he go? Didn't he say before that he would help me kill William? Why did he disappear completely? I've been in pain for so many days, and he didn't care about me. That loser. Xianyu snorted. He didn't complete his mission and even dared to conceal it. He has been dealt with. What does it mean to deal with it? Oscar suddenly felt uneasy. What it means is you will never find him again in this world. Xianyu had a wicked smile on his face. After hearing this, Oscar felt a chill on his back. When Wu Wei said that he had turned Sun Hao into a fool, although he was a little surprised, it solved his urgent problem after all, so he didn't care too much and was even quite happy. But now, they actually killed a person? Who are these people? What is their purpose in coming to help me? Will he be dealt with by them one day? Thinking of this, Oscar became even more worried. Xianyu saw the fear in his eyes and guessed what he was thinking. So he said, if you have anything else to ask, just ask directly. Wu Wei, that loser, relies on his little ability to look down on ordinary people like you. But Wu Wei and I are different. Since he will be my mission from now on, I think we should exchange information. At least you should know what I can do and what we are doing. Master Xuanyu, I want to ask, what is your mission? My mission is to help you get everything you want. Everything I want? That's right. For example, you wanted to bring disgrace upon William before, and Wu Wei came to help you do this. Unfortunately, his ability was limited, so he failed to do this and caused you to be invaded by the ghost energy. This is a mission failure. Oscar nodded, and then asked, now can I ask who you are? And why are you helping me? Xianyu smiled faintly. Little friend, don't worry. We have no ill will towards you. You don't have to be afraid. As for why we want to help you, you will know when the time is right. Your only task now is to continue to stay in the Chen family and let the Chen family love you as before. After that, if you need anything, you can contact me. Oscar felt relieved when he heard this. He thought about it and decided that since the person had said so, he would not hurt him. And Wu Wei really wanted to help him before, but unfortunately, he was a useless idiot who couldn't even defeat William and couldn't even get rid of the evil spirit from him. Master Xuanyu, from what you said, your strength is stronger than Wu Wei, right? He was slightly excited in his heart. From what Xianyu said, he felt that he looked down upon Wu Wei. Since we are here to help him, the stronger we are, the better. Little friend, you compare me with a half-baked person like Wu Wei. This is really an insult to me. Sorry, Master Xuanyu, I didn't mean that. Oscar was afraid of angering Xuanyu, so he hurriedly explained. Xianyu waved his hand. Don't worry, I just said it casually. I won't take it to heart. Oscar finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then you are stronger than that master named Ching Fu, right? He looked at Xianyu with full expectation. Of course, Xianyu said confidently. Very good. Oscar was ecstatic. He had already guessed that the reason William dared to be so arrogant now must be because Ching Fu was by his side. Although he didn't know why Ching Fu listened to William so much, he knew that Ching Fu had a very high status in the upper-class circle. Therefore, those people in the Zhou family must have been so respectful to William because of Ching Fu. Now that he has a master who is more powerful than Ching Fu, why is he still so arrogant towards William? Then, Master, can you remove the ghost energy? Xianyu said calmly, it's a small matter. What? Do you want me to help your foster mother get rid of the evil spirit? Master, do you take money? Don't worry. No matter what you want me to do for you, I won't charge you for anything I can do. Master, you are so good, Oscar said excitedly. Xianyu laughed. Your adoptive mother is also in the hospital now, right? Take me to her ward. Oscar didn't expect this man to be so enthusiastic and hurriedly stopped him. No need. Xianyu glanced at him, his eyes full of confusion. Oscar was silent, with a sinister look in his eyes. Don't be so anxious. Let her feel the pain for a few days first. Chapter 169, If I Had a Conscience. Would I have lived so many years? After leaving the hospital, Xianyu drove a black Land Rover to Xishan. Xishan is located on the outskirts of the imperial capital and is sparsely populated. In the early years, people often came here to camp and hike. Then one day, rumors of a ghost town suddenly spread and fewer people came here. In recent years, the rumors of ghosts have become more and more popular, and fewer people are living near Xishan. By now, it can basically be said that it has completely turned into a ghost mountain. Xianyu was driving, thinking back to what Oscar had said before and couldn't help shaking his head and laughing. What a little beast. After a while, the car entered the deep mountains. After walking for another 10 minutes, a big mountain appeared in front of us. Shen Yu did not slow down at all, and even stepped on the accelerator harder, with a somewhat excited expression on his face. Just as the vehicle was about to hit the mountain, the black SUV disappeared out of thin air in the next second. Huh, every time I pass by here, I feel so damn cool, Shen Yu said excitedly. This illusion array is really awesome. At this moment, the scene in front of Shen Yu had completely changed. A magnificent castle appeared before his eyes. The castle covers a vast area. Looking from a distance, its towering spires and thick walls seem to be integrated with the surrounding mountains, or they seem to be confronting the mountains, showing its majesty. The surrounding mountains, one upon another, act like a natural barrier, completely isolating the villa from the hustle and bustle of the outside world. When you arrive at the gate of the castle courtyard, the first thing that catches your eye is the tall and sturdy stone gate with exquisite patterns carved on it, as if telling an ancient story. Shen Yu stopped the car, took out a talisman, and threw it on the stone gate. The stone door flashed with light and opened to one side. Passing through the stone gate is a spacious courtyard paved with neatly laid blue stone bricks. In the middle there is a gorgeous fountain, the water of which sparkles in the sunlight. The main building of the castle is made of solid stone, and the walls are thick and solemn. The roof adopts a steep slope design and is covered with dark tiles, exuding a mysterious and calm atmosphere. Shen Yu drove the car to the parking lot with familiarity, then got out and walked into the castle. Third young master. A white-haired old man walked up to him and greeted him respectfully. The old man's name is He. He is the steward of this castle, and he is 76 years old this year. Shen Yu nodded. Fei, where is father? Something happened with the fifth young master. The master has already gone there. Isn't Lao Wu in country tea? Father went there in person from such a long distance. It seems that the situation this time is not small. Shen Yu had a gloating smile on his face. The master left a message for you, asking you to just focus on handling things here. Got it. I'll go check on that little piece of shit. After saying that, Shen Yu walked to the elevator. He immediately stepped forward to help him press the elevator button, and then stepped aside. The castle has 8 floors in total, 6 on top and 2 on the bottom. But after Shen Yu entered the elevator, the key he pressed was in star. After the elevator reached the second floor below ground, it ran for a full minute before stopping. Shen Yu walked out of the elevator and saw a dim corridor in front of him. The walls on both sides of the corridor are all black, with intricate patterns carved on them. Shen Yu walked to one of the patterns and pressed his hand on it. A faint light flashed, the pattern slowly disappeared, and a door appeared before him. He walked in and saw Wu Wei huddled in the corner. Wu Wei, who had been dressed very elegantly, now looked disheveled. When Wu Wei saw Xuan Yu, he rushed over, knelt down, and grabbed Xuan Yu's hand. Third brother, please save me. Please save me, I don't want to die yet. Shen Yu looked at him with sympathy. Old 19, it's not that I don't want to save you, it's just that the mistake you made this time is too big. Look at you. Your father has trained you for so many years, but you can't even complete such a simple task, and you are also invaded by ghost energy. How disappointed do you think your father must be? Also, if you failed in your mission, you failed. You could have come back and admitted your mistake to your father, but you lied to your father that the mission was not over yet. You hid and secretly removed the evil spirit by yourself, thinking that you could remove the evil spirit from Oscar without anyone noticing and pretend that nothing had happened. Don't you know that father hates people lying to him the most? Wu Wei's face was covered with tears. Third brother, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please help me plead with my father. I will definitely work hard for you in the future to repay you. Work like a slave? Shen Yu raised his eyebrows. After hearing this, Wu Wei felt that he finally had hope and hurriedly looked up at Xuan Yu. Yes, I am willing to work like a cow or a horse for you, third brother. Wu Wei had a flattering smile on his face. As long as third brother saves me this time, I will be your dog in the future. I will do whatever third brother tells me to do. Shen Yu thought for a moment, then smiled evilly. But I was the one who told father about the mistakes you made and personally sent people to bring you back. Tell me, if I go and plead for you and keep you here, wouldn't that be a slap in my face? Wu Wei was stunned when he heard this, then immediately stood up and glared at Xuan Yu with anger. It was you? I was wondering how my father knew that my mission had failed completely and that Oscar had been invaded by ghost energy. You beast, why did you harm me like this? Wu Wei smiled faintly. No reason. Maybe there are a few more wrinkles around my eyes recently, so I'm a little upset. Also, I think your task is quite interesting. It just so happens that I have been idle for so many years, and it's time to go out and have some fun. By the way, I've met Oscar. He's pretty good and interesting. He has a vicious mind, which is exactly what I want. You don't like him anyway, so leave it to me from now on. Wu Wei was so angry that he was shaking all over. He pointed at Shen Yu and cursed. You beast. I trust you so much, and I am not a threat to you at all, and you treat me like this. Do you still have a conscience? Shen Yu chuckled. Conscience? If I had a conscience, would I have lived so many years? 19th brother, just go with peace of mind. I will help you live the good times ahead. After saying that, he raised his hand and waved it gently. A black talisman flew out from his palm, flew to Wu Wei, and then quickly sank into his body. The next second, Wu Wei's body began to dry up and his bones began to crackle. He fell to the ground helplessly, howling in pain. Strands of vitality were drawn away from him and rushed towards Shen Yu. Shen Yu's complexion became visibly rosy, and the fine lines at the corners of his eyes gradually disappeared. Soon, Wu Wei's body became completely shriveled, as if only a thin layer of skin covered his bones. His eyes were wide open, and he died with his eyes open. Suddenly, dark clouds covered the sky above the castle, and a huge thunderbolt fell into the castle yard. It headed straight for Xuanyu in the invisible underground, but was finally blocked by a thick protective shield and special building materials. Chapter 170 Oscar disappeared. What should I do? It's all my fault, Mom. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't be in so much pain. Oscar looked at Dora, who had just experienced a severe pain on the hospital bed, and his eyes were red with heartache. No, it's okay, Oscar, Mommy can bear it. Dora forced a smile. In just one night, she seemed to have aged 10 years. His face was pale, and he had dark circles under his eyes. My whole body was covered in sticky cold sweat, and even the bedding under me was wet. Oscar, go get a hot towel and help Mommy wipe it off. Mommy is sweating all over, and it's so uncomfortable. Okay, Mom. Oscar responded and left quickly. As soon as he walked into the bathroom, the distress on his face was replaced by irritation, thinking, can't you see that my fingers are broken? And you still ask me to wash the towels. He turned on the faucet, took a towel with an unhappy look on his face, wet it, and simply wrung it a few times with his uninjured hand. Then he put on that distressed and self-blaming expression again and returned to the ward. Mom, let me wipe it for you. He reached out to wipe Dora's face. Dora had been resting with her eyes closed when she suddenly felt the water on the towel dripping onto her pajamas, wetting a patch of them. Why is there so much water? Oscar, didn't you wring out the towel? She asked, opening her eyes. Oscar said pitifully, I'm sorry, Mom. I tried, but my fingers hurt and I couldn't use any strength at all. Dora glanced at him and said distressedly, don't blame you. It's all Mom's fault. I forgot that you still have injuries on your hands. Mom will do it herself. As she spoke, she sat up with difficulty, reached out to take the towel, and grimaced in pain as she twisted it. Then, she endured the severe pain and wiped all the places she could reach. But she still felt uncomfortable and scolded her 7 daughters, blaming them for being unfilial and not coming to sleep with her. Even Chen Huaiming and Chun Lang, who had taken care of her all night, were not spared. She became angrier and angrier, then said, Oscar, call your sisters and ask them to come to the hospital to take care of me. Oscar advised, Mom, let me do it. After all, you became like this because of me. This is all I can do for you now. You are just a child. How can you take care of others? Besides, you are a boy, and many things are not convenient for you to do. Just like now, Mom wants to take a bath. You can't accompany Mom into the bathroom, right? Oscar fell silent, shedding a tear. Mom, it's all my fault. Dora hurriedly wiped his tears. Silly son, why are you crying? Mommy is fine. Just call your sisters quickly. Oh, call your eldest and 3rd sisters first. At first, Dora thought they were just talking about cutting off ties with her. After all, they were the result of her 10 months of hard work and pregnancy. How can a mother and daughter hold grudges overnight? But what she never expected was that her 2 daughters were so angry that not only did they never come home again, they didn't even call her. But now that she is so sick, they can't be completely indifferent, right? Oscar looked embarrassed after hearing what Dora said. Mom, my eldest sister and 3rd sister have blocked me, and I have no way to contact them now. Dora was stunned when she heard this, and then she said angrily, "These two cruel things actually blocked you?" Oscar nodded, his face full of grievance. "Don't be sad. Mom will help you scold them. Come and use Mom's cell phone to call." Dora took out her cell phone and handed it to Oscar. After Oscar took the call, he first dialed Chun Wanning's cell phone, but it showed that the call could not be connected. He called Chin Yin again and got the same result. "Mom, my eldest sister and third sister. Seems they have blocked you too." Dora was so angry that her chest ached when she heard this. "Unfilial daughter. I am their biological mother. I gave them life, but they are just like that little beast William. They have blocked me. Go ahead and beat your other sisters. I just don't believe it. I, Dora, have given birth to so many daughters and none of them can be trusted." So, Oscar continued to call. The calls between Chun Huaiming and Chun Lang were connected, but no one answered. I had to call my fifth sister Chin Ilan before the call was connected. Chin Ilan had been busy with Fashion Week abroad during this period. When she received the call, she had just got off the plane and had not even had time to go home. She rushed to the hospital carrying her suitcase. "Mom, why did you become so sick?" When Chin Ilan saw Dora's haggard appearance, her eyes turned red on the spot. "Fifth sister, it's all my fault." Oscar explained the whole story with tears in his eyes. After hearing this, Chin Ilan flew into a rage. How could William do such an inhumane thing? Dora no longer had the energy to curse at this moment. She had just experienced an inhuman torture before Chin Ilan came. She asked Chin Ilan to help her take a bath and then insisted on going home. Since the hospital couldn't relieve her pain anyway, she might as well go home and recuperate. After Oscar got out of the car, he carried her to the bed and laid her down, sweating all over. Dora asked him to go back to his room to take a shower and rest. After all, he had been taking care of her for 2 hours. Oscar was more than happy to do so, and after pretending to refuse a few times, he went back to take a comfortable bath. Then he sat beside Dora's bed for a while with red eyes. Dora felt distressed to see him sad, and she scolded her other daughters as worse than pigs and dogs. At night, after Fiona returned home, she followed the sound to Dora's room and was shocked to see Dora so sick. After all, they are mother and daughter. Although she hates her, she feels very uncomfortable seeing her so sick, so she sends a WeChat message to ask Chin Ilan to come out. "Fifth sister, Mom. Why did she suddenly become so sick?" Fiona still didn't want to call her mom. Chin Ilan sighed and recounted the whole story. She also accused William of being a coward for letting his own mother suffer such hardship. Fiona felt that all her heartache had gone to waste, and said angrily, "What does this have to do with Brother William? Dora obviously asked for it. She deserves what she has today." Chun Ilan frowned slightly. "Seventh sister, I know you are angry with Mom, but she's your biological mother after all. You are really too much to say that to her. By the way, you can go in and take care of her. I've been busy all afternoon, and I haven't adjusted to the time difference yet. I'm almost exhausted." "I take care of her?" Fiona chuckled. "Let her dream on. Isn't she willing to sacrifice everything for Oscar? Then Oscar should serve her himself." But what no one expected was that Oscar disappeared. Chapter 171. Dora fainted. At this time, Oscar was sitting in the first-class cabin of a plane to country tea. He has suffered too much during this period and needs to relax himself. Before boarding the plane, he sent a WeChat message to Dora. "Mom, I really can't bear to see you suffer so much for me. I will make up for it all. Please wait for me." After meeting Shen Yu, he came up with a perfect plan. He just sent a message and left. Everyone in the Chen family would definitely think that he left cruelly because he didn't want to take care of Dora. When they all misunderstood him, he would take Shen Yu back. By then, they will feel guilty for having wrongly blamed themselves. Maybe he could win back the hearts of those lost sisters through this incident. And in a few days, when Dora has suffered enough and is about to collapse mentally, if he appears like a savior and saves her life, she will definitely be grateful to him and love him even more. Of course, the biggest benefit of this plan for him is that it can let Dora see William's viciousness. Didn't William keep saying that the evil spirit could not be eliminated? He was determined to expose his lies. Dora must have hated William even more after suffering so many days of torture, and even hated her to the core, and tried every means to get the 300 million back. Maybe these 300 million can fall into his hands. Thinking of this, Oscar curled his lips slightly and put on the blindfold. And just as he fell asleep soundly, the Chun family was in chaos. After Dora found the WeChat message from Oscar, she called him immediately, but found that his phone was turned off. So she called Zhang Qijin over again. Zhang, do you know where Oscar went? Zhang Qi was following Oscar's instructions before he left and shook his head. Madam, the young master didn't tell me where he was going. In the afternoon, I saw him leaving the house alone with a bag on his back. His eyes were red, as if he had just cried. I asked him where he was going, but he refused to tell me. Dora became even more anxious after hearing this, and hurriedly said to Chinilan, Quick, call your father and tell him that your brother is missing. Ask him to send someone to look for him immediately. Chinilan didn't know about the quarrel between David and Dora at William's house, so she quickly called David. Dad, my brother is missing. Please send someone to look for him. David now gets annoyed whenever he hears about things happening at home. He coldly says, Go find your mother, and hangs up the phone. How is it? What did your father say? Dora asked hurriedly. Chinilan was stunned for a moment, then conveyed David's meaning. Dora was stunned. What does your father mean by this? David said when she insisted on transferring the ghost energy to herself, and her heart suddenly panicked. Could it be that David really doesn't want her this time? Lon, call your dad again and tell him that I can't stand the pain, and I fainted. Chinilan didn't know why Dora lied and hesitated for a moment. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up, Dora urged again. At this point, she paused and added, Turn on the speakerphone. Dora's anxious face. Chinilan thought she was trying to trick her father back to find her brother. Without thinking any more, she quickly called David again. What's wrong again? David's tone on the other end of the phone was very impatient. Dad, Mom has fainted from the pain. Please come back and see her soon. Chinilan's voice sounded very flustered, as if it was true. But David just sneered. Don't call me again about your mother. Wait until she dies before notifying me. Dora heard this from the public broadcast and became furious. David, you bastard, you want to kill me? I've been married to you for decades and have given birth to 8 children for you. And you want to kill me? Do you have any conscience? David didn't expect Dora to play such a trick and was speechless for a moment. Dora, take good care of yourself. When you can move again, we'll go get the divorce certificate. After that, David hung up the phone. Dora didn't expect him to say divorce so coldly, and she instantly lost her mind. David, you are such a heartless bastard. Fiona could hear Dora's roar even with the door closed in her room. She came to the door of Dora's room and looked at the helpless and furious Dora as if she was watching a good show, with a slight smile on her lips. Let me make it clear first, if you divorce my dad, I will be with my dad. Dora was stunned when she heard this, and then she became even more furious. She picked up the antique lamp on the bedside table and smashed it at Fiona. Fiona's pupils trembled slightly, and she dodged quickly. The lampshade brushed past her shoulder and hit the wall behind her, shattering all over the floor. You wicked girl. You wicked girl. Why didn't I strangle you to death when I gave birth to you? Dora roared. Fiona's face instantly darkened. What a coincidence. I also think it would have been better if you had strangled me to death. That way, I wouldn't have to be the daughter of a crazy woman like you. Get out. Get out of this house. I don't want a daughter like you. Do you think I want to stay here? The screaming and yelling is so noisy. Fiona deliberately picked her ears with a look of extreme disgust. Oh, by the way, let me tell you one thing from what I know about Oscar. He probably doesn't want to hear your screams at home. So he went out to hide under the guise of finding someone to treat you, and we'll be back soon. Just wait and see what kind of ungrateful wolf you are protecting with all your heart. Stop making malicious assumptions about my son. You evil-minded little bitch. Get out of here. After saying that, Dora threw another tissue box at Fiona. This time, Fiona was prepared and dodged it in no time. She had a mocking smile on her face. Don't worry, I'm healthy and there's no ghost in my body. I don't feel any pain at all. I can go wherever I want. I have to go to my eldest and third sisters to celebrate. Dora, just stay at home and wait for your adopted son to find someone to save you. After saying that, Fiona left with a happy face. Dora was so angry that she actually fainted. Chapter 172 Oscar. Who is behind you? It's really a dog-eat-dog drama. William watched Fiona leave Dora's room triumphantly on the screen, his eyes full of mockery. Although the surveillance camera did not capture Dora's appearance, she never stopped cursing. Just by listening, he felt that his ears were polluted, so he simply turned off the sound completely. The world suddenly became quiet. He stood up, turned and looked out the window, his thoughts turning over and over. Oscar is gone. Dora is one of the few people in the Chun family that he relies on the most. Given his personality, he must take good care of Dora and hold her heart firmly in his hands. If he leaves like this, Isn't he afraid of losing Dora as a supporter? Or is he confident enough that Dora won't blame her for this? Could it be that he has found a way to get rid of the evil spirit in Dora? Is it Wu Wei? Thinking of this, he called Ching Fu and asked him if he had any news about Wu Wei. Unexpectedly, Ching Fu found Wu Wei's address with great difficulty, but found it in a mess, as if a fight had just taken place there. William immediately realized that something was wrong. He returned to the computer and started working quickly. Dora's hospitalization appeared on the computer screen. He watched the video carefully and saw that at noon today, Oscar left Dora's ward with quick steps. The images kept changing until Oscar came to a blind spot in the hospital garden. After that, William could only see the area below his thighs and a pair of men's feet that occasionally appeared. Oscar chatted with the man for about 10 minutes, and when he left, he had a smug smile on his face. It looks like we got some good news. William continued to wait for the mysterious man to appear, but no matter how he switched the surveillance screen, he could not find any clues. The man seemed to have disappeared. William's face was slightly tense. Oscar, who is behind you? After Fiona made Dora faint from anger, she happily came to Chun Wanning's house. After Chun Wanning opened the door, she saw Fiona holding a bottle of red wine in one hand and shouting surprise, with a suitcase at her feet. Why are you here? Chun Wanning frowned slightly. She already had Chin Yin Yin here and didn't want another guest. Fiona raised her foot and walked inside. I came to celebrate with you. Celebrating what? To celebrate the old witch who sacrificed herself to save her adopted son. She was tortured by the ghost energy, and her adopted son left her, and I made the old witch faint on the spot. As Fiona spoke, she walked to the wine cabinet with ease and was about to open the red wine, but it was snatched away by Chin Wanning. Why? You still want to drink? Fiona saw Chin Wanning's serious expression and shrank her neck. Of course not. I stole these 2 bottles of wine from that old witch and presented them to my good sister. Chun Wanning didn't say much. She took out a box of yogurt from the refrigerator and threw it to Fiona, then sat on the sofa. When Fiona turned around, she found Chun Yin Yin sitting on the sofa with a dazed look and red eyes. She hurried over. Third sister, what's wrong with you? Chun Yin Yin didn't react at all. Fiona came close to Chun Wanning. Sister, what's happening to third sister? Chun Wanning said calmly. I just received the notice that William sued him. I was shocked. Fiona paused for a moment, then smiled bitterly. Brother William really hasn't let us off at all, but it's also true. We broke his heart. It's normal for him to take revenge on you. Chun Wanning didn't say anything, and a trace of loneliness flashed in her eyes. During this period, she stayed at home and didn't even go to the company. She knew that this was William's punishment for her. Only reacted when she heard William's name. She turned her head slowly, tears in her eyes, and said with a wronged look, but I didn't mean it. I was also deceived by Oscar, that ungrateful wolf, so I misunderstood William. We are obviously siblings. Why won't he forgive me? I called him so many times, sent him so many messages, and kept apologizing, but he ignored me. Now he is actually taking me to court. I've been out of work for a long time now, and my followers on Weibo have been dropping. If he takes me to court again, I will have to quit the entertainment industry completely. Does he really want me, his sister, to be ruined? He clearly knows how much I love my job, and he clearly knows that this is my dream. How could he be so cruel? Chun Wanning glanced at her and said calmly, look at it from a positive perspective. I've already been ruined, and even more thoroughly ruined than you are now. As the person in the Chin family who felt the most guilty towards William, Fiona was very unhappy after hearing what Chin Yun said. Third sister, I think the fact that you can say this means that you still don't think you are wrong. Upon hearing this, Chin Yun's eyes became even redder, and she looked like she was about to cry. I know I am sorry to William. No, you don't. Fiona interrupted her coldly. If you knew, you wouldn't think Brother William is so cruel. Chun Yin wanted to explain something, but Fiona didn't give her a chance and continued. Let's not talk about what you did to Brother William when he was at home before. Let's just talk about your participation in the show. You knew that Oscar was an ungrateful person who only cared about himself and could even push you to the evil spirit without hesitation at the critical moment of life and death. But what did you do? For the sake of your own career and reputation, you teamed up with Oscar and your parents to slander Brother William in front of the live camera, hoping to bring him down in disgrace so that you could whitewash yourself. So, what qualifications do you have to say he is cruel now? He is so cruel that he would give you the gifts he worked so hard to earn time and time again? Even if you trample his kindness under your feet time and time again, he never stops trying to please you as his sister. He is so cruel that he will fight for you online under the name of Yun-Yun's younger brother. Seriously, half of your reputation as a top star is probably earned by William. Otherwise, you can only hang around in the entertainment industry with the name of a rich girl. How can you achieve the success you have before? After hearing this, Chun Yun-Yun was silent for a moment, and then the feeling of regret hit her like a tidal wave, making it almost impossible for her to breathe. She couldn't help it and burst into tears. Fiona showed no sympathy for her and just looked at her coldly. Chun Wanning looked at Chun Yun-Yun, who was crying so hard that she could hardly breathe, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Just then, the doorbell rang. Fiona quickly got up and opened the door. When she saw Chun Huaiming, her brows furrowed. "What are you doing here?" Chapter 173, The Four Sisters Gather. Chun Huaiming saw Fiona stunned for a moment. Then she remembered what Fiona had said to her before, and a trace of guilt flashed through her heart. "Seventh sister, why are you here too?" I was kicked out by your good mother." Fiona's face was full of sarcasm. "Also, don't call me seventh sister anymore. I've told you very clearly that if you dare to take them to find Brother William, I will no longer recognize you as my second sister. But you went anyway. From the moment you made the choice, we are no longer sisters." Chun Huaiming's eyes instantly turned red. "Seventh sister, please don't be like this. I had no choice at the time. Mom," she almost knelt down in front of me, and Oscar was in so much pain. I really couldn't bear to watch it. If she wants to kneel, then let her kneel. Even if her knees rot, it's her own fault. Also, Chun Huaiming, did your brain get squeezed by a door? You still feel so sorry for your brother Oscar. I really don't understand. How on earth can you feel at ease bringing people to disturb Brother William in the middle of the night? Chun Huaiming, how do you have the nerve to do this? Have you forgotten how Dora and Oscar treated Brother William before? Have you forgotten how you treated Brother William? Chun Huaiming hurriedly explained, "Seventh sister, it's not like that. I was actually thinking that if Brother William could think it through this time and help Oscar, Mom would definitely change her attitude towards her. If we all sit down and have a good talk, maybe Brother William can let go of his resentment and go home to reunite with our family." After hearing this, Fiona looked at Chun Huaiming as if he were a fool, and then sneered. "Chun Huaiming, if you think you shouldn't be a doctor, you should go to Sichuan province. There is a big Buddha there. Ask him to come down, and you can sit on it." Chun Huaiming looked at Fiona with a hurt expression, not understanding why her sister was so malicious towards her. She just wants this family to be better, like before, with everyone living in harmony and happiness. Is this wrong? Fiona didn't want to see this Madonna at all now, so she rolled her eyes and turned away. Chun Huaiming remembered that he still had important things to do, so he suppressed his emotions and followed him in. "Big sister." Chun Wanning glanced at her and said, "You were also kicked out by her?" Chun Huaiming shook his head. "No, I came to you because I have something to discuss with you." "What's the matter? If it's something at home, you don't have to tell me. I don't want to hear it." Chun Huaiming choked and explained, "It's Dad's business." "Then tell me." Although Chun Wanning had some resentment towards David, she did not have the same hatred towards Dora. Chun Huaiming glanced at Fiona and felt that she was still young and it was not appropriate for her to say these things. But Chun Wanning said, "It doesn't matter. Just tell me." Seventh sister is not young anymore. She understands a lot of things. It wasn't that she wanted to help Fiona grow, but she felt that Fiona's hatred for this family would make life difficult for everyone. After hearing this, Chun Huaiming did not insist anymore. She put her bag down, found a place to sit down, and then said, "Sister, I suspect Dad is having an affair again." Chun Wanning raised her eyebrows slightly, obviously very interested in this matter. Chun Yun-Yun was surprised. As for Fiona, she laughed and said, "No wonder the old man was so tough today and directly said that he wanted to divorce that crazy woman. I thought it was because the crazy woman was too crazy and the old man couldn't stand it. It turns out there is such a story behind this." Chun Huaiming frowned when he heard this. "Dad has already asked for a divorce? I thought he was just saying that out of anger." Fiona nodded and told him how Dora called David and was asked for a divorce. Chun Huaiming's attention was on another matter. "Brother Oscar is gone?" Fiona snorted. "Chun Huaiming, except for you, everyone in this room has been harmed by Oscar, that white-eyed wolf. If you call him such a disgusting name again, get out." Chun Huaiming was a little angry. "Seventh sister, I'm your second sister. Do you have to talk to me like this? When you helped them find out the address of William's brother, you are no longer my second sister." "All right." Chun Wanning wanted to know something else, so she quickly interrupted their quarrel. "Second sister, tell me first, Why did Dad say he wanted a divorce? So Chen Huaiming told them everything that happened in the Chen family from beginning to end. Chen Yunyan couldn't believe it and said, "Did Mom really say that she wanted to transfer the ghost energy to you?" Upon hearing this, Chen Huaiming was so angry that she shed tears and nodded. "Honestly, every time I think about this, I feel like I'm being stabbed by needles in my heart. I don't know how to face my mother. What's so difficult about that? Of course you should forgive her," Fiona said sarcastically. "This is really too much. I thought my mother's partiality for Oscar had a limit, but I didn't expect her to be able to do such a thing. If I were there, she would probably let me do it too. Is she really our biological mother?" Chen Yunyan said with an indignant look on her face. Fiona snorted coldly. "What's the big deal? Let alone you. Even if all 7 of us daughters were tied together, we wouldn't be as good as Oscar's finger. That's how that crazy woman is. She's hopelessly crazy. Sometimes I even wonder if Oscar is the bastard child that crazy woman had with some other man outside. Or if not, Oscar must have cast a spell on her." When Chen Huaiming heard these words, he instinctively felt a little uncomfortable, but in the end he didn't say anything. She looked at Chen Wanning again. "Sister, what do you think we should do about Dad cheating on us? Should we tell Mom?" Chen Wanning thought for a moment and asked, "Why do you want to tell me? Not to mention that you are not sure about the truth of this matter now. Even if he really cheated on her, what would it matter if you told me? They're getting a divorce now. Are you exposing this matter now because you think their divorce process is too slow?" "Of course not," Chen Huaiming explained. I just feel that it's too pitiful for my mother to be kept in the dark like this." Fiona looked at the compassionate expression on Chen Huaiming's face and felt speechless. "Yes, your mother is so pitiful. Next time when Oscar needs a kidney, your mother asks you to give your kidney to Oscar. I wonder if you will still feel pity for her by then." After saying that, Fiona strode away angrily. She was afraid that if she looked at Chen Huaiming, the saintly woman, for 2 more times, he would not be able to help but slap her twice. Chen Huaiming's tears fell again, and he looked at Chen Wanning aggrievedly. "Big sister, 7th sister is talking too much." Chen Wanning smiled faintly and said, "Forget it. She's young, and that's how she speaks. Just don't take it to heart. As for Dad's suspected cheating, I suggest you ignore it for now and just pretend it never happened. Let them do whatever they want and just mind your own business." In fact, before coming here, Chen Huaiming also thought that it would be better to keep this matter secret. But if that was the case, she was the only one who knew about it, and she couldn't help but wonder if she would be too sorry to her mother if she kept it a secret. But now, everyone knows about this matter, and everyone thinks it is better to keep it secret. She no longer has any psychological burden. After the burden in her heart was lifted, she left. "Big sister, 2nd sister is too cold, isn't she? I've been scolded so badly on the internet recently, and she didn't even call or send me a WeChat message before. But now that we've met, can't she care about me a little?" Chen Yinyan felt a little hurt. Chen Wanning smiled and said, "Is this the first day you met your 2nd sister? Besides her own things, who else does she remember? I haven't been home for such a long time, and she hasn't even called me to show her concern for me." After that, she got up and went back to the room, took out her cell phone, and made a call. "Help me check who David is cheating with." Chapter 174, David Cheats. David is now determined to divorce Dora, and he has kept his word, completely ignoring Dora's life or death or the mess at home. So he has been living a very carefree life outside these days. The private detective Chen Wanning hired found out everything she wanted with almost no effort. At this time, Chen Wanning looked at the woman in the photos and videos sent by the private detective and shook her head with disdain. After William was abducted, David cheated on his wife once. The woman was his secretary at the time, named Yang Nianxue. Chen Wanning had also seen this woman many times. At this time, the woman David was hugging in the photos and videos was Yang Nianxue's daughter Yang Shanshan. Yang Shanshan's face is about 60% similar to Yang Nianxue, and her age is almost the same as Chen Yunyan. Chen Wanning really didn't expect that his father was so good at playing. The mother was old and ugly, and he looked down on her, so he chose her daughter. It was really ridiculous. However, Chen Wanning didn't plan to do anything right now. Instead, keep the photos and videos properly and wait for the day when they can be used to their greatest value. But what she didn't expect was that William also learned about David's affair. "Did your people take these photos?" William sat on the sofa, holding a stack of photos and looking at Zhou Xinfeng, who was sitting opposite him. Zhou Xinfeng swallowed nervously. Yes. Are you afraid of me?" William smiled. Zhou Xinfeng looked up and glanced at him quietly, then shook his head. No, not afraid. William thought to himself, if you could say this without stuttering, I might actually believe you. But he didn't dwell on the issue anymore and threw the photo on the coffee table. Tell me, why did you do this? And why did you send these things to me? Zhou Xinfeng took a deep breath, stood up, and bowed deeply to William. Mr. Jiang, I was so proud of myself because I had read so many years of books that I didn't believe in ghost stories. I thought you were a liar, so I spoke rudely to you repeatedly. Now I sincerely apologize to you and hope you can forgive me. William looked at his trembling appearance and found it a little funny. I have already accepted the 200 million you transferred to me. This means that I have turned the page on this matter. You don't have to do this again. Zhou Xinfeng stood up and shook his head. No, the 200 million is just the reward for your rescue of my father. I still owe you a sincere apology. William glanced at him, his eyebrows slightly raised, wondering what was going on with this guy. Is he afraid that he will use Master Shen's methods against him? Dr. Zhou, I will not use the methods of a Xianshi to retaliate against you, so you can rest assured. Moreover, the nature of your work is special. To put it in a broader sense, you are making contributions to the country and the people. People like you have the power of merit. For us Xianshi, people like you need to be respected, just like your father. Zhou Xinfeng was stunned for a moment, then smiled foolishly. Really, really? Am I that awesome? William nodded. Okay, you can sit down now and explain to me why you have these photos? Zhou Xinfeng relaxed a lot and sat down opposite William again. Mr. Jiang Shao, I sent a private detective to find these photos. Are you checking David? Zhou Xinfeng nodded. Why? Didn't David try to discredit my father and your reputation because of the phone call I made to him? He also wanted to put the blame on me. I was not satisfied, so I asked someone to keep an eye on him, hoping to find something to hold against him so that he could also experience the feeling of having his reputation damaged. But I didn't expect to find such a scandal when I checked. Then I thought that he had bullied you before, and maybe this thing would be more useful in your hands, so I rushed to send it to you. William was speechless after hearing his explanation. Do all scientific researchers have such unique thinking patterns? By the way, Mr. Jiang Shao, Zhou Xinfeng suddenly thought of something and said, when my people were investigating David, they found that someone else was also investigating him. Who is it? David's eldest daughter, Chen Wanning, should also know about this now. William was silent for a moment, then nodded. Mr. Jiang, can these things help you vent your anger? Zhou Xinfeng had a flattering smile on his face. William thought about it, and seeing that he was looking at him expectantly, he nodded kindly so that he wouldn't feel that his hard work was in vain. That's good. Zhou Xinfeng breathed a sigh of relief, and then asked tentatively. Then, Mr. Jiang, you shouldn't hate me now, right? William raised his eyebrows. What do you want to do? Zhou Xinfeng grinned and said, I didn't intend to do anything, but I am particularly interested in the supernatural phenomena you created. If you have time, can you tell me about it? Or can you let me know next time you're going to solve a problem caused by these supernatural phenomena? I want to see it live. William really didn't expect that Zhou Xinfeng did all this just to see ghosts. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Okay, next time I catch a ghost, I'll call you in advance. After hearing this, Zhou Xinfeng left satisfied. As soon as he left, William's cell phone rang with a special ringtone. That was the reminder sound he used to monitor Oscar's return to the country after he found out that Oscar went to country tea. He opened his phone and saw that Oscar had just bought a flight back to Imperial Capital for tomorrow. This is ready to come back and save the world. As he spoke, he caught a glimpse of the photo on the coffee table from the corner of his eye. Chen Wanning also knew about this. Based on his understanding of Chen Wanning, she would definitely not hide this matter now, and would only reveal it when it could bring her the greatest benefit. He certainly wouldn't do what she wanted. Besides, Dora must be in pain now. Then do something good and make her feel better again. The Chen family is still a little too peaceful now. Chapter 175, Did William ask you to come and help me get rid of the evil spirit? Today is the 5th day that Dora has been invaded by ghost energy. She is on the verge of collapse and has lost a lot of weight. Sometimes, she even felt that she was more miserable than Oscar at that time. Madam, the porridge is ready. The nanny came into the room carrying a bowl of porridge. These days, several nannies have taken turns to take care of her. After taking care of her for a day each, Chen Yilan and Chen Huaimin couldn't bear it anymore. They all used the excuse that they were busy with work and didn't even go home. As for Chun Lang, she left Daijing before Dora returned home, using the excuse of helping her find a master. So these few days, every time she felt severe pain, she scolded her daughters. Of course, the three who had already severed ties with her were scolded the most harshly. "Help me up," Dora said weakly. The nanny walked over quickly, put the porridge on the bedside table, helped her up, put 2 pillows behind her, and then began to feed her the porridge. After just 2 sips, Chun Huaimin came back. "Mom, are you feeling better?" Chun Huaimin took the porridge from the nanny. "Let me do it." She scooped up a spoonful of porridge and brought it to Dora's mouth. Dora said angrily, "Why? Are you back to collect my body?" After hearing this, Chun Huaimin felt very aggrieved. She worked around the clock in the hospital, performed 3 operations, and was exhausted, but she still wanted to rush back to see her. It's fine if she doesn't appreciate it, but why do you treat her like this? Dora saw her with her head down, looking like she was about to cry, but not crying, and she became even more annoyed. "Come on, stop looking so pitiful. People who don't know you would think you're dead. Let me ask you, have you contacted your brother in the past few days? Have you found him?" Chun Huaimin's tears suddenly welled up. "Mom, why are you still thinking about him at this time? He hasn't contacted any of us, and we can't contact him either. Seven Sister is right. He just doesn't want to take care of you at home, so he found an excuse to go out." Dora was furious when she heard this and shook off Chun Huaimin's hand. As the bowl of porridge was turned over, the hot porridge quickly burned Chun Huaimin's hands red. All the remaining porridge spilled onto her legs. Chun Huaimin screamed and threw the bowl to the ground. "Mom, what are you doing?" Her voice was filled with tears. "What am I doing? I want to ask you what you were doing. What are you thinking of slander your brother like this? How did your brother wrong you?" Chun Huaimin was so angry that his chest kept heaving. "How did I slander him? It was obvious that he left on his own. You want to help me find someone to cure my illness. Unlike you, an unfilial daughter, if you don't want to take care of me, just say so. And you pretend to be busy every day. I'm really busy. I performed 3 surgeries today. I rushed back to see you right after I got off the operating table. Why did you say that to me? Your mother is in so much pain that I'm almost dying. Can't you take a leave? Your hospital can't be transferred without you, right? Are you the only one in the entire hospital who can perform surgery?" When Dora got angry, she even forgot the pain in her body. "I'm a doctor who saves lives." Chun Huaimin defended himself while holding back his grief. "Those are the patients I have been responsible for. If I don't operate on them and let other doctors do it, what if something goes wrong? Besides, your current condition is not something I can solve by coming back. There are so many nannies at home. Can't they take care of you alone?" Dora threw her hands and said, "Stop giving me these big words. If I hadn't helped you find a connection with your pig brain, how could you have become a doctor at such a young age and held the position you have now? I've done so much for you, and this is how you repay me? I'm so sick, and you're not willing to take care of me by my bedside. I can't even count on an unfilial daughter like you now. How can I wait until I'm old and well?" When Chun Huaimin heard this, her heart felt like it was stabbed by a knife, and the pain made her completely lose her mind. "I am unfilial? How am I unfilial? You have 7 daughters, and I'm the only one who is willing to take care of you. Am I still unfilial? Then tell me, what should I do to be filial? Does it have to be that you propose to transfer the evil spirit of your good adopted son to me at that time, and I agreed immediately, and then I would be considered filial? Or should I be like your good adopted son and Chen Lang, saying I'll help you find a solution and then never show up again, so that I can be considered filial? Mom, there are some things I don't tell you because I don't want to make you sad, but now I really can't help it. Am I still your daughter in your eyes? Why can you take it for granted and let a biological daughter sacrifice for an adopted son? Oscar, is she really just your adopted child?" Dora was furious after hearing this. She pointed at Chun Huaimin and cursed. You evil creature. What are you talking about here? Get out of here. Get out of here right now. I, Dora, don't have a daughter like you." Chun Huaimin smiled bitterly, turned and left. When she reached the door, she stopped and turned to look at Dora. "Mom, all the pain you are going through now is brought to you by your precious son, Oscar. I hope you feel that it is all worth it. Get lost. You bitch." Dora grabbed the pillow from under her and threw it at him. Chun Huaimin's long hair was blown apart, and there was sadness in his eyes. He could no longer bear it and left here in tears. And Dora also started crying after she left. She was in so much pain, and these unfilial daughters were determined to go against her one by one. She was about to collapse, crying and cursing. Scold his daughters, scolded William, scolded David. "Mrs." At this time, the nanny knocked on the door. Dora felt that she was seen in such an embarrassing state by such an inferior person as the nanny, and she yelled angrily, "Get out! We'll let you in." The nanny was frightened, but still said, "Madam, there is a man named Ching Fu downstairs who said he came to see you." "Who are you talking about?" "Ching Fu." Dora stopped crying. "Yes, ma'am." Dora thought about it and wondered why Ching Fu suddenly came to see him. Could it be that little beast William finally had a change of heart and brought Ching Fu here to help her get rid of the evil spirit? "Where's William? Did William come with you?" She knew that this little beast had been making trouble for so long just to get her love. Snort. Don't even think about it. She has been in pain for so many days. Once the evil spirit in her body is removed, she will make this little beast live a life worse than death. Thinking of this, she felt the pain in her body eased a little. "Go and bring them up." The nanny was stunned when she heard the word they, but she didn't dare to ask any more questions. She hurried downstairs to invite Ching Fu up. Dora was stunned when she saw that Ching Fu was the only person who came in. She asked, "Where's William? Why didn't he come in?" Ching Fu was even more confused. Mr. Jiang Xiao didn't come. Dora choked, but didn't say anything else so as not to offend Ching Fu again. Ching Fu is her only hope now. As long as Ching Fu is willing to help her, even if it is only to let her suffer less pain for half an hour like Oscar, she would be willing to do so. "Master Ching Fu." She tucked her sweat-soaked hair behind her ears and forced a smile. "What's the matter with you coming here today? Did William ask you to come and help me get rid of the evil spirit?" Ching Fu nodded indifferently. "Mr. Jiang Xiao is kind-hearted. Although you Qin family members are a bunch of beasts, he still couldn't bear to see someone being tortured by ghost energy, so he asked me to find a way to get rid of the ghost energy. I thought that after all, I took so much money from you, so I looked for it and finally found a way to completely remove the ghost energy from your body." As he spoke, he took out a talisman, lit it with his mysterious power, and threw it directly into the half cup of water on the bedside table. "Drink it, and the evil spirit in you will be completely removed." The next day, Imperial International Airport. Oscar walked out of the international arrivals with brisk steps. After going out for a trip, his skin color became a lot darker, but he looked radiant, as if he had some great joy. He took out his cell phone and made a call. "Master Xuanyu, I'm back." Chapter 176. Dora enters the emergency room. After Oscar called Xianyu offered to pick him up at the airport in person. Half an hour later, Oscar met Xianyu. After getting in the car, he couldn't help but secretly glance at Xianyu several times. Xianyu smiled and said, "Master Chun, is there a flower on my face?" Oscar smiled awkwardly. "I'm sorry, Master Xuanyu. I just think you have changed a lot since the last time I saw you." "Big change." Xianyu really likes people saying that he is young, so he asked the question even though he already knew the answer. Oscar nodded. "You seem a lot younger. The last time I saw you, you looked like you were almost 40, but now you look like you are only 25 or 26 at most." After hearing this, Xianyu burst into laughter, looking in a very good mood, but he did not want to explain why he became younger. Oscar was even more excited when he saw this. In his opinion, Xianyu could even remove the ghost aura, which showed that he was a more powerful master than Wu Wei and Ching Fu. Therefore, he never thought that Xianyu's rejuvenation was due to the power of technology. Instead, he felt that he was like those hermits in TV dramas who had regained their youth through practice. Now that he has such a powerful helper, why should he worry about not being able to kill William? "Master Chen, tell me about your plan first," Xianyu suddenly asked. The two reached a consensus from the beginning. Since they are on the same front, they should not hide anything, and all actions and plans must be made known to the other party. After Oscar's experience of working with Wu Wei, he also felt that it was necessary to share what they had so as not to disrupt each other's plans. "Master Xuanyu, although you said that you didn't help me for money, I thought about it. William, the biological son of the Chun family, just transferred the ghost energy, and you had the nerve to ask for 300 million. If you don't ask for a penny for getting rid of the ghost energy directly, we will be at a loss." "Oh, so are you planning to ask for a high price this time?" Xianyu looked very interested. Oscar nodded. Xianyu frowned slightly. "Are you short of money?" Oscar smiled bitterly. "I didn't need it before, but now Chen Wanning and Chen Huiming have taken back all the things they gave me, and Fiona has sold all my collections over the years. I only have a little real estate that David gave me, and my monthly living expenses are not much. Now that there is such a good opportunity, of course I have to take the opportunity to make some money. But I don't plan to ask for more. 80 million is enough. As for how we divide it, it's up to you. And I think they will only remember things that cost money." Besides, after giving you 80 million, they will realize how uneconomical it was to give William the 300 million, and how much I made from it. Only then did Shen you understand Oscar's real purpose. So what you really want is the 300 million? Oscar smiled and nodded. Shen Yu's eyes darkened slightly. After watching Oscar in a daze, he chuckled. Master Chun, you're really interesting. Half an hour later, the vehicle arrived at the Chun family mansion. As soon as Oscar entered the door, he found the living room in a mess, and the nanny was busy cleaning it up. Young master, you're back? A nanny walked towards him. Oscar nodded. Where's my mom? Is she upstairs? My wife fainted and was sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. What? Fainted? Oscar was shocked, thinking that Dora was possessed by a ghost and that her life was in danger. He was extremely upset. If I had known, I would have come back a day earlier. Without thinking too much, he rushed out anxiously, got into Xuanfeng's car, and rushed to the hospital. After arriving at the hospital, Oscar asked Xianfeng to wait in the car while he went to find Dora first. Because he knew that only when the Chen family completely misunderstood him, blamed him, and spoke ill of him, could he bring Xianfeng out and arouse their guilt towards him to the greatest extent. In this way, he will be more likely to win everyone's hearts again. What he didn't expect was that when he arrived outside the emergency room, only Chen Huaiming, Chen Ilan, and Dora's family were at the door. David didn't even show up. Dora's two brothers came from her mother's side. Second sister, fifth sister, how is mom? Oscar ran over and asked anxiously. Originally, Chen Huaiming and Chen Ilan thought that Oscar left because he didn't want to take care of his mother. Now that his mother's ghost spirit has been removed, he has come back. This further confirmed their suspicions about him. Although they both loved Oscar very much, he really disappointed them this time. Chen Ilan simply said still try to save him and stop talking. Chen Huaiming was still angry at Oscar because of the quarrel with Dora yesterday, so he just glanced at him and looked away. Oscar knew that these two people must have thought that he didn't want to take care of Dora and ran away. Although this was Oscar's original purpose, the current situation made him unhappy. If Dora died suddenly now, wouldn't all her work be in vain? How did it suddenly become so serious that it required emergency treatment? Oscar was anxious and grabbed Chen Huaiming's hand. How dare you ask, you ungrateful wolf? Dora's elder brother He Yongwei pointed at Oscar and asked angrily. Your mother was so good to you. She even transferred her evil spirit to herself for you. But you ignored her and ran away without saying a word. Dora's second brother, He Yongxing, also cursed. That's right, I've raised a dog for so many years, and I have feelings for it. Your mother has done so much for you, but you are not grateful at all. Where is your conscience? Oscar was very anxious at the moment and had no intention of paying attention to them. He continued to ask Chen Huaiming. Second sister, how is mom? Is the situation serious? Chen Huaiming was still soft-hearted and sighed. Mom is still in critical condition. I just got here, and I don't know the situation. Just wait and see what the doctor will tell you when he comes out. Just then, David came hurriedly. Lon Lon, how is your mother? Chen Ilan saw David. Her eyes instantly turned red. Dad, mom is still in the emergency room. Brother-in-law, what's going on with you? Why are you doing this mess out there again? Brother-in-law, you are already so old. Why are you still restless? Do you really want to piss my sister off to death? The He Yongwei brothers condemned it one after another. David choked when he heard this and was too embarrassed to refute anything. After all, he was indeed wrong this time. To be honest, Dora was so angry that she ended up going to the emergency room. Chapter 177 William is definitely not that kind. After David learned that the evil spirit in Dora had been removed, he immediately returned home and prepared to have a serious talk with Dora about the divorce. Who would have thought that as soon as I got home, I was greeted by a stack of photos and an extremely angry roar. David, you beast, are you worthy of me? David knew that the truth had been revealed, so he didn't hide it anymore. If Dora hadn't been tortured by the ghost these days and couldn't even get out of bed, he would have come back to file for divorce long ago. After he told her about the divorce, Dora went crazy and started beating and scolding him. Naturally, he would not let him do whatever he wanted, so he slapped her so hard that she couldn't even get up. Then he left after saying, it would be best if you were willing to divorce, but you have to divorce even if you don't want to. He knew in his heart that Dora was old and would definitely not agree to a divorce so easily. But he also had a way of controlling her. What he didn't expect was that the woman would be so angry that she went straight to the emergency room. Although he no longer had any feelings for Dora, after all, They had been married for decades. She could die, but not because of him. Because if that were the case, he would probably be pointed at and scolded by thousands of people. So after receiving Chun Ilan's call, he hurried over. "Dad!" Oscar shouted with red eyes. "What on earth is going on? Why did Mom become like this after I was away for only a few days?" David gave him an unhappy look and said, "How dare you say that? If you hadn't left and stayed at home with your mother, she wouldn't have been like this. This is purely a scapegoat." But at this time, no one would stand up to speak for Oscar. In their opinion, Dora had done so much for him, and he just left without saying a word, which was really a lack of conscience. Although Chun Xingwen looked aggrieved, he was not panicked in his heart. After all, he still has a trump card. He now just hopes that Dora can come out of the emergency room as soon as possible. "Dad, I had no choice but to leave at that time," Oscar said with a wronged look on his face. David snorted coldly, not wanting to listen to Oscar's sweet talk anymore. He now has completely lost his good impression of this adopted son. Dora is so nice to him, but he can still play tricks on her. If I continue to be open and honest with him, I'm afraid I won't be able to escape. Thinking of this, he pushed Oscar away, walked to the door of the emergency room, and waited for Dora to come out. Oscar followed and continued to explain. "Dad, you really misunderstood me. I really went to help Mom find a master who can remove the ghost energy, and I also found a master who can completely remove the ghost energy from Mom." David chuckled. "Your mother doesn't need it anymore." Oscar was startled when he heard that. What's the meaning? Could it be that Dora's illness was too serious this time and she couldn't be saved? At this moment, the door of the emergency room was suddenly opened. Dora was pushed out. Everyone gathered around and helped Dora push the bed. At this point, she is no longer in danger of death and has woken up. She just needs to rest well. After returning to the ward, Oscar rushed over, held Dora's hand, and said with a distressed look on his face, "Mom, how are you?" Dora was so excited to see Oscar that she even wondered if she was hallucinating. "Son, is that you?" "Son." Oscar nodded with tears in his eyes. "Mom, it's me, I'm back." Dora was angry and distressed and gently hit his arm. "Where have you been, kid? Mommy is so worried." "Mom, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have left, but I just couldn't bear to see you suffer so much because of me. So I went out to find someone to save you." At this point, Oscar smiled and continued, "But Mom, don't be afraid. I have found a very powerful master. He said that he only needs 80 million to help you completely get rid of the evil spirit in your body. I brought him here. I'll invite him up now. You will never feel pain again." He said this and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, Dora held his hand tightly and said, "Son, don't go." Oscar thought she was reluctant to leave him, so he smiled and comforted her. "Mom, it's okay. The master is downstairs. I will be up soon." Dora shook her head. "No need, master. The evil spirit in Mom has been removed." "What? Get rid of it? How could it be gotten rid of? Who helped you get rid of it?" When Oscar said this, his face was full of shock. Later on, his tone even contained some anger, as if he really didn't want the evil spirit in Dora to be removed. Everyone frowned when they heard this. Dora didn't hear any of this. At this moment, her heart was filled with joy for the return of her beloved son. Even temporarily forgot about David's affair. William asked Ching Fu to come and help me get rid of it. "Son, don't worry. Mom is fine now." Oscar was completely stunned after hearing this. William actually helps Dora get rid of the ghost? How is this possible? Doesn't he hate Dora the most and wish she would die soon? How could William be so kind as to help you get rid of the evil spirit? Did he ask you for money again? How much did he ask for? Dora smiled and said, "Son, don't think too much." William didn't ask Mom for money this time. Ching Fu helped Mom get rid of the evil spirit directly. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. William must have done something wrong. He definitely didn't help you get rid of the evil spirit. This must be his conspiracy. "Oscar, what's wrong with you?" David said unhappily. "William is your mother and I's biological son. He has come to terms with it, feels sorry for his mother, and wants to save her. Is this so incomprehensible to you? Do you have to be a good son if you are trying to commit suicide like you are, saying that you feel sorry for your mother and don't want the evil spirit in your body to transfer to her, while pretending to faint and waking up after the evil spirit is transferred to her?" Oscar's heart sank when he heard this. David still saw through his previous calculations and was disappointed in him. Without David's love, it would be meaningless even if Dora loved him. But now, David only has eyes for that bastard William. It seems that the father-son relationship with him has completely disappeared. What should I do? Dora was immediately furious when she saw her beloved son being slandered by David. David, who are you to say that about my son? Mom, don't get excited. Take care of yourself. Oscar knew that given David's current attitude towards him, he absolutely could not let Dora come into conflict with David over him. After comforting Dora, he looked at David and said with a stiff upper lip, Dad, that's not what I meant. If the ghost energy in Mom is completely removed, it would be a good thing. I'm just worried. My brother clearly said before that the ghost energy cannot be removed. It can only be transferred. Now it can be removed suddenly, so I'm worried if there will be any problems. For example, due to the limitations of Master Wu's ability, the ghost energy may not be completely removed. Dora heard this and felt that Oscar's words made some sense. She also wanted to support Oscar, so she said, Son, I think what you said makes sense. William, that little beast is definitely not so kind. He might have asked Ching Fu to do something to me so that I look fine now, and then if something goes wrong later, he will blackmail me for another 300 million. Go and get that master you found to come up here, and let Mom have a good look at him. Chapter 178, The Ghost Spirit Has Not Been Completely Eliminated. Master, has the evil spirit in my mother been completely removed? After Shen Yu examined Dora, Oscar asked anxiously. Shen Yu frowned slightly and shook his head. The evil spirit has been removed, but not completely. Your mother's condition may be better now, but in a few days, when the remaining evil spirit reproduces again, she will only suffer more than before, and her life may even be in danger. When everyone heard this, their faces suddenly changed, fearing that something might happen to Dora. Little did they know that all this was just Oscar's new plan. After telling Shen Yu about the current situation, Oscar proposed his own new plan. Anyway, ghost energy is something that cannot be seen or touched. Even if Ching Fu really got rid of the evil spirit, no one would know. As long as Master Xuan Yu eliminates the evil spirit once more and says something, then what William asked Ching Fu to do to Dora, doesn't it all depend on Xuan Yu's words? I knew that William, this little bastard, had no good intentions. He must have deliberately let Ching Fu come over to remove some of the evil spirit and keep some to take my life. What sin did I commit to give birth to such a son? Dora's face was full of anger, as if she would want to kill William if he appeared in front of her now. Just then, a lazy young boy's voice came from the door. I also want to know what sin I committed to have a mother like you. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw William lazily leaning against the door frame, looking at Dora with a half-smile. Dora immediately said angrily, You little bastard, you have hurt me like this, and you still have the nerve to come here? Do you believe me or not? I will call the police to arrest you. William shrugged nonchalantly. Then go ahead and report it. Let's see whether the police will arrest me or the liar hired by your good, adopted son. After saying that, he turned around and looked at Ching Fu behind him. Master Ching Fu, someone said that you didn't completely get rid of the ghost energy. Is this an insult to you? Ching Fu walked into the room, swept his cold eyes over everyone in the ward, then snorted coldly and set his gaze on Shen Yu. Then I want to see what kind of ability this person has to dare to slander me here. Shen Yu didn't take Ching Fu seriously at all. In his eyes, Ching Fu was just an elementary school student and was nothing to be afraid of. Slander? My fellow Taoist, have you completely eliminated the evil spirit? After I cast a spell, the truth will become clear. Ching Fu snorted disdainfully. In that case, I want to see how you dare to confuse right and wrong here. Do it. Shen Yu smiled faintly, walked to the bedside, raised his hand, and made a gesture. Then a talisman hit Dora, and the talisman turned into a golden light and sank into her body. Dora instantly felt a warm current flowing into her body, then into her limbs, making her feel relaxed. It was as if all the problems caused by the ghost energy invading the body in the past few days had completely disappeared. Ching Fu watched all this and was filled with amazement. How could this young man's mystical arts be so powerful? What's wrong with young people nowadays? Are both of them so awesome? It's okay for his master. He has already figured it out. This may be the difference between a genius and an ordinary person. But now, he saw with his own eyes a young and powerful master, and he was someone he had never heard of before. In the Shinmin sect nowadays, are geniuses measured by kilogram? For a moment, he even felt that he, as an old man, was a waste. William behind him frowned slightly. Ching Fu couldn't see any clues, but as a heavenly master, he could see it very clearly. Although Shen used talismans and mystical arts seemed to be used by orthodox mystical masters, There was a faint trace of black mystical power on the talismans wrapped in golden light. He is the black mystic master. There are generally two types of xianshi, orthodox xianshi and black xianshi. Orthodox masters rely on the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the power of merit to practice, while black masters mostly use other methods to obtain the power for practice. For example, the power of ghosts or the power of luck absorbed from humans. Generally speaking, Orthodox masters look down on black masters. They believe that what black xianshi did were all evil and immoral. But William never thought of black master in this way. He believed that since heaven allowed the existence of black Shen master, it meant that black Shen master's way of practice was not against heaven. Whether it is the power of ghosts or the power of human destiny, Master He Xian cannot take it away unless one is willing. Therefore, since Master He Xian can use this as a way of practice, it means that whether it is a ghost or a human, they are all willing to sacrifice themselves. In order to obtain these things, Master He Xian must have made his own sacrifices. To put it bluntly, this is an equal exchange. Just like Wu Wei before, although he relied on the luck of big stars in the entertainment industry to practice, he also brought them real benefits. In addition, his ambition was higher than his ability, so even if he was a black master, William never took him seriously. But Shen Yu's profound strength is much higher than Wu Wei's. And what surprised William the most was not his identity as a black mystic master, but the mysterious power he released was clearly beyond the scope of a black mystic master. There is even a hint of evil power. The practice methods of the evil cultivators are truly intolerable to the way of heaven, and they rely solely on plundering. Human luck, ghost power, human lifespan, etc. are all their targets for plunder. This method of training is extremely cruel, just like Ling Su who helped Su Liangkai before. However, because this type of practice is not tolerated by the way of heaven, the number of evil practitioners is extremely small. Basically, they were wiped out by the heavenly Tao when they first chose the path of evil cultivation. Those who survived were no longer simple evil cultivators. There isn't much evil power in Xianyu, which means he's not an evil cultivator in the traditional sense, but a black Shen master who occasionally practices in an evil way in order to avoid punishment from heaven. Thinking of this, William's eyes darkened slightly as he looked at Xianyu and Oscar. Before, he always knew that Wu Wei appeared next to Oscar because he was instructed by someone. So, is Xianyu the person behind Wu Wei? Or is it that the person behind the scenes has not appeared yet? Why did they help Oscar? In his previous life, there had never been any Shen master around Oscar, let alone a black Shen master who might be related to evil cultivators. Do these people appear around Oscar in this life? Is it because of the butterfly effect caused by his rebirth? Or did these people also exist in his previous life, but he was weak and powerless at that time and could not see their existence? Chapter 179. You are so young, but you are quite playful. Ching Fu, I can already sense the presence of ghost energy. How do you want to explain this? Xianyu didn't know that William had discovered his true identity in such a short time. He glanced at Ching Fu and saw that his face was full of surprise and his eyes were full of disdain. A little loser like you dare to challenge him? You really don't know your place. Ching Fu became angry when he heard this. Impossible. I've already gotten rid of the evil spirit in Dora. She just needs to get some sun in the next few days to replenish her yang energy, and she will be completely fine. You are slandering me by taking advantage of the fact that ordinary people cannot see the changes caused by the master's spell. I slandered you? Xianyu sneered. Then let's ask this lady about her personal experience. He looked at Dora. Mrs. Chun, how do you feel now? I feel much better now. I feel warm all over. As she said this, Dora turned and looked at Ching Fu and William. William, you have such a vicious heart. I am your mother, and you actually hurt me like this. You will be punished. William with a mocking expression. As soon as she finished speaking, Dora frowned suddenly and then cried out in pain. Ah, it hurts. It hurts. Xianyu was stunned for a moment, then turned to look at Dora, only to see that she was suddenly surrounded by a strong ghost aura. What's going on? Isn't there no ghost energy in her anymore? At this moment, a trace of evil spirit penetrated into the palm of his left hand. Evil spirit? Xianyu was shocked. He endured the severe pain in his palm, took out a talisman, stuck it on his left wrist, and pinched his left wrist hard with his right hand to relieve the pain and prevent the ghost energy from breaking through his Jinin talisman and wandering to other parts of his body. Why is there evil energy in your body? Dora had no time to pay attention to him and rolled around on the bed in pain. Oscar also realized that something was wrong and hurried forward to ask, Master Xuanyu, what's wrong? What's the problem? What is evil spirit? Xuanyu was so angry that he didn't expect that a small evil spirit would cause him such a big loss. He immediately lost his temper and roared. How dare you ask me? Didn't you say that she had ghost energy? How can there be such a thing as evil spirit? Brother, what is this evil spirit? Why is there an evil spirit on Mom? Oscar reacted immediately and questioned William. He had never heard of such a thing as evil spirit before. This thing must have been put in by Ching Fu when he was removing the evil spirit from Dora yesterday. After hearing this, everyone looked at William, but William just smiled indifferently and then said, Master Ching Fu, you explain it to them. Ching Fu snorted coldly. Of course I was the one who put the evil spirit in there. When Oscar heard this, he rushed to William without thinking and accused him with a sad face. Brother, why did you hurt Mom like this? Snap! Snap! As soon as Oscar finished speaking, William slapped him twice hard on both sides with lightning speed. Originally, you were standing far away, and I was too lazy to move. Now that you've come over, I'll naturally keep my word. Call me brother twice, and I'll give you a slap once. Oscar looked at William with resentment. He really couldn't understand why William could still think about such things at this time. He gritted his teeth and said, Okay, if you want to hit me, I'll admit it. Now I want to know why you want to use that evil spirit to harm Mom. Ching Fu sneered. Oscar, don't you have any idea who harmed Dora? I have lived for so many years, but this is the first time I have seen a young man like you who is full of evil intentions. Master Ching Fu, why did you help William slander me like this? How much benefit did he give you? Slander? Oscar, let me ask you, where did you invite this so-called master from? Is he really a master? William asked. Of course he is. Oscar retorted without thinking. Master Xuanyu is the master I found from country tea with great effort. I even knelt at his doorstep for 2 days before he agreed to come and help me save my mother. If you hadn't put the evil spirit on my mother, he would have completely removed the evil spirit from her. Do you want to kill my mother? Country tea? Your adoptive mother risked her life to save you, but you are too lazy to take care of her. Do you think anyone will believe you when you say this now? William said with sarcasm. Why doesn't anyone believe me? I can do anything to make my mother get better. Even if it costs my life, I will give it to her. William, don't think that if you slander me a few times, my parents and sisters will believe you. I tell you, if anything happens to my mother because of you, I will fight you. Oscar looked extremely angry. Dora's 2 brothers, who had previously suspected that Oscar ran away because he didn't want to take care of Dora, and made them wonder if they had misunderstood him. Only Shen felt that something was wrong. William looked so confident that it was obvious that he had a backup plan. But Oscar, this idiot, spoke so confidently without thinking about how he would end up if his lies were exposed. But now he didn't have the heart to care about this idiot. This evil spirit was too overbearing, and he almost exhausted all his energy just to suppress it. Oscar, you are really good at speaking. You are willing to sacrifice your life for your mother? Did you find the master you brought from country tea? Did you kneel in front of his door for 2 days before you begged him to come? Oscar with contempt. Oscar was stunned, not knowing why Qin Yunyan came over suddenly and said such words. But since he had already said it, there was no way to go back, so he had to nod. Then tell me, what are these things? After Qin Yunyan finished speaking, she threw all the photos in her hand at Oscar. The photo fell to the ground with a clatter. Oscar just took a look at it, and then he felt darkness in front of his eyes. How could that be? How so? Why does Qin Yunyan have these photos? Qin Yunyan continued. Oscar, I really didn't expect that you were so good at playing at such a young age. Your mother is in so much pain at home because of you. What are you doing? Oscar just felt cold all over, as if there was a ball of cotton in his throat, and he couldn't say anything. Can't you say it? Or are you too embarrassed to say it? Qin Yunyan's tone was full of sarcasm. Since you don't have the face to say it, let me help you say it. While your mother was enduring inhuman torture at home to save you, you were lying on the beach sunbathing. When your mother couldn't sleep at home because she was trying to save you, you were already going to brothels at such a young age and spending money like crazy on a bunch of transvestites. While your mother couldn't eat at home because she was saving you, you were eating delicacies from land and sea in the top hotels and country tea. Also, as far as I know, this Master Xuanyu you found has been in Imperial Capital since the beginning. He was the one who picked you up at the airport when you came back from country tea. Now, do you still have the nerve to say that you went to country tea to save your mother? Oscar, Do you really think that all of us Chen family members are fools and can be fooled by you again and again? Chapter 180. The first time I felt a little resentful towards Oscar. After hearing what Chen Yinyan said, everyone stepped forward to pick up the photos, and their expressions became uglier the more they looked at them. David even threw the photo directly at Oscar's face. The sharp photo left a bloody mark on his cheek. Oscar, do you have anything else to say? Your mother and I raised you for more than 10 years, and this is how you repay us? Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? David roared. Oscar's mind was blank at this moment. Fake, Dad, these photos are all fake. William must have deliberately forged them in order to slander me. He defended himself with a pale face. William sneered. Oscar, you really want to put all the blame on me. This photo was taken by your third sister. Oscar opened his mouth, but didn't know what to refute. He could only look at David and said pitifully, Dad, I really didn't. I went to Country Tea to help Mom find a master. As he said that, he walked to Shen Yu and begged, Master, tell them that I really went to Country Tea to find you. Oscar was so anxious that his eyes turned red, but Shen Yu was also tortured by the evil spirit and had lost his mind. He really couldn't bear it anymore. If he didn't deal with this evil spirit, his hand would probably be crippled. So he simply shook off Oscar's hand and strode away. Before leaving, he glared at Ching Fu fiercely and swore to himself that one day he would make the old Taoist pay the price. As Shen Yu left, Oscar became even more flustered. At this time, Dora's wave of pain had passed. She was covered in cold sweat, as if she had just been pulled out of the water. She was holding a photo in her hand, in which Oscar was hugging a beautiful woman with a smile on his face. Oscar, why? Why did you lie to your mother? She looked at Oscar with hurt in her eyes. When Oscar heard Dora's voice, he rushed to the bed and knelt down as if he had found a life-saving straw. Mom, I really didn't. Dora looked at Oscar deeply, and a tear rolled down the corner of her eye. Then she looked at Ching Fu. Master Ching Fu, didn't you say that the evil spirit in my body has been completely cleared? Why am I still in so much pain? Ching Fu snorted coldly. Didn't you hear what the master you invited just now said? Dora shook her head. She was in so much pain that she had no intention of paying attention to what anyone said. He already told you when he was removing the ghost energy from you that there is no ghost energy in your body anymore. What do you think is the reason? Dora looked at her two brothers beside her nervously, and when she saw them nodded, her heart sank. Ching Fu continued. Also, there is indeed evil energy in your body. I put it there because evil energy is much more powerful than ghost energy. I put this evil energy in there to eat up your ghost energy. Moreover, this evil spirit will not have any effect on your body. On the contrary, because you have been invaded by the evil spirit this time, your body has become weaker. You may encounter ghosts more often in the future. If it stays in your body, it will not only help you recover, but also allow you to avoid ghost attacks in the future. But I really didn't expect that all the hard work I did for William's sake would be said to be worthless by a good adopted son like you. It's really ridiculous. After hearing this, Dora looked at William with a hint of guilt in her eyes. This was the first time she had felt this way towards her biological son since William came back. But she was more worried. Ching Fu is now her only hope. What she did before has already offended many people. If Ching Fu is unwilling to take care of her anymore, then her life might be in danger. Thinking of this for the first time in her life, she felt a little resentful towards Oscar. Oscar was also smart, and he knew that at this point, if the evil spirit in Dora was not resolved, he would lose his only support in the Chen family. So he quickly ran to Ching Fu and knelt down. Master, please save my mother. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have doubted you because of what William did before. It affected your plan. It's all my fault. Please help my mother one more time. I kowtow to you. As he spoke, he banged his head loudly, and his forehead soon became red and swollen. Everyone was moved when they saw this scene. Dora felt so distressed that she quickly got out of bed. Mom, what are you doing? Chun Huaiming quickly supported her. Hurry up. Tell your brother to stop knocking his head. What if something goes wrong? Chun Huaiming didn't move. Dora was so angry that she pushed her away and went to help Oscar herself. Son, stop knocking your head, stop knocking your head. Your forehead is swollen. Oscar said with tears in his eyes. Mom, it's my fault. I hurt you. If I hadn't been so worried about you, I wouldn't have hurt you. I would have asked Master Ching Fu to save you. As he said this, he turned to look at Ching Fu and grabbed his pants. Master Ching Fu, please save my mother one more time. As long as you are willing to help, I will do anything you ask me to do. Ching Fu glanced at him and sneered. Young man, you are still playing tricks on me at this time. One moment you say that you were worried that I didn't help your adoptive mother to get rid of the evil spirit because William did a bad job in the past. The next moment you say that you are questioning me because you were too worried about your adoptive mother. You won't mention your little tricks at all. Do you really think that I am too old to see through your little tricks? Do you still think that I will be moved by your false filial piety? Ching Fu looked at Dora and said, Dora, I'm telling you the truth. I look down on everyone in the Chen family, especially you. The reason I saved you was because William asked you to help. I was grateful to him for repaying evil with kindness, so I agreed to help. But I remember the hateful look on your face when you questioned me and William before. Even if you die in pain in front of me, I won't even look at you. All of this is your own fault. You should blame your evil adopted son. After saying that, he turned and left the ward. Oscar's heart sank completely. Dora began to feel the dull pain again. She panicked and quickly grabbed William's arm. William, Mom is in pain again. Can you help Mom and ask Master Ching Fu to help Mom one more time? Mom is almost dying of pain. This time, I really know I was wrong. Please, can you let Master Ching Fu save me one more time? William looked at Dora, and her face was indeed full of regret. But how much of it was regret for him? And how much of it was regret for having finally escaped the torture of the ghost spirit, but being dragged back by his own stupidity? He doesn't know and doesn't care. He just smiled faintly and then said, Mrs. Chun, I am just an orphan. William said, then turned and left. Dora saw this and started cursing. William, come back here, you little beast. I'm your mother. Do you really want to watch me die? William, come back to me. A sharp pain came, interrupting Dora's curse. When Chun Yun saw this, there was no trace of pity or sympathy in her eyes. Dora, even now, you are still like this. If I were William, I would not help you, because you are just not worth it. Chapter 181, Everything is William's plan. You evil girl, get out of here. Dora was half lying on the ground, pointing at Chen Yun and cursing. I don't have a daughter like you. Chen Yun shook her head and smiled helplessly. It doesn't matter. I don't have a mother like you now. Just do as much as you want. In the end, when only your good adopted son is left, you'll be happy. In your eyes, your biological daughters and biological sons, are not as good as your good adopted son anyway. You transferred the evil spirit to yourself for your good adopted son, and you have been in agony for so many days, but he is living happily abroad. Don't you know why he did that? He just wants you to feel pain for a few more days, so that you will remember this pain. After William finds someone to help you get rid of the evil spirit, he will bring back a random master and, under the pretext of helping you get rid of the evil spirit, slander William for deliberately preventing you from getting better. All the credit goes to him, and William takes the blame. But what he didn't expect was that the ghost energy in your body was suppressed by the evil energy. The fake master he invited backfired and led the evil energy away. The ghost energy in your body came back to life and began to torture you. Your current pain is all caused by your good adopted son, but I think, even if it is so, you will definitely not blame him, so just continue to endure this pain. After all, you asked for all of this. Oscar felt as if he was falling into an icy cave after hearing these words. Third sister, I really didn't. Just shut up. Chun Yun raised her hand and slapped Oscar in the face. I was blind before, and I loved you more than my own brother. But from the moment you pushed me towards the evil spirit, I don't have such a vicious brother. William said that if you call him brother, he will slap you. From now on, if you dare to call me third sister, I will slap you in the face too. Oscar, you better take care of yourself. I won't care what you do to your good adoptive mother in the future. But if you dare to let me know that your existence affects Dad or my other sisters, Chun Yun, will never let you go. After saying that, Chun Yun strode away. Chun Huaming looked at Oscar deeply and followed him. She didn't understand why Oscar, who used to be such a well-behaved child, became like this now. Big brother, second brother. David looked at Dora's two brothers helplessly. You have seen how much my family has been ruined by your sister. She broke the hearts of my daughters and my only biological son, all for an adopted son who has no blood relationship with me. I really can't afford to have a wife like this. When the Hyungwee brothers heard this, they really didn't know what to say and could only sigh helplessly. David walked up to Dora, looked down at her, and said coldly, Dora, this time, if you still can't see through the vicious heart of your adopted son, then you'd better take care of yourself. Dad. Oscar looked at David with tears on his face. Don't call me Dad. I don't have a son like you. David said this with a cold face and left angrily. Oscar looked at his back, gritted his teeth, and clenched his fists tightly. Damn it. You bitches, you all deserve to die. I clearly loved him so much in the past. Could it be that it was all fake? One day, he will make them regret it. The He-Young-wee brothers looked at their sister lying on the ground and Oscar kneeling beside them with a violent look on his face, and shook their heads helplessly. He said he felt so sorry for his mother, but when he saw her lying on the ground in pain, unable to move, he didn't even bother to get her to bed. The two brothers looked at each other and couldn't bear it anymore, so they went forward and carried Dora to the hospital bed. Brother, it hurts so much, Dora said with tears in her eyes. He-Young-wee sighed. He-Young-shing said angrily, It hurts. You deserve it. You had a good life, but it was ruined for an adopted son. Do you have a pig brain? If Oscar was successful and sincere to you, it would be fine, but he is obviously a wolf cub. What on earth are you doing this for? In front of the hospital, after Chen Yunyan came down, she went straight to William's car. Brother William, I have done everything according to your instructions, but I see that Dora still won't give up Oscar. As Chen Yunyan spoke, she carefully observed William's expression. He thought William would feel disappointed or angry at Dora's partiality after hearing this. But William's expression remained indifferent, and there was even a sarcastic smile on the corner of his mouth. Dora wants to die. No one can stop her. Let her go. But isn't everything you did in vain? I get angry just listening to you. You worked so hard to get Ching Fu to remove the ghost energy from her, who said I was really helping her get rid of the evil spirit. Chen Yunyan was stunned. I asked Ching Fu to remove the evil spirit from her because I didn't want to give Oscar the opportunity to put the blame on me. William had figured out Oscar's plan from the beginning. Based on his understanding of Oscar, Dora is his biggest supporter in the Chin family. Under normal circumstances, even if he is just pretending, he will still take good care of her by her bedside. But he went abroad at this time. At first, William really thought that he had gone abroad to find someone to deal with the evil spirit, so he sent someone to keep an eye on him. What I didn't expect to see was that he was busy enjoying himself. At this time, William guessed that the person who could really help Dora was in the country. Oscar's purpose was probably to make Dora suffer for a few more days, and then appear as a savior. William was sure that his wish would not be fulfilled, so he helped Dora get rid of the ghost aura one day in advance. But he didn't want to help Dora out of kindness. He knew that Oscar would most likely throw dirty water on him, slandering him for not getting rid of the evil spirit. So he chose to use his evil spirit to devour the evil spirit. As long as Oscar doesn't do anything, the ghost spirit will indeed disappear completely. But Oscar insisted on making trouble, so Dora would really fall into his hands this time. Chapter 182 Chen Yunyan. Please give me a chance to make amends. After hearing what William said, and looking at the indifferent look on his face, Chen Yunyan was completely stunned. So, from the beginning, did he guess what Oscar was going to do? Is it because he has been tricked by Oscar in this way too many times, so he can guess Oscar's plan so accurately, and even Dora's reaction is exactly what he expected? Chen Yunyan suddenly thought of the days when William was still in the Chin family. How many times had he taken the blame? The Chin family is really sorry for him. Thinking of this, Chen Yunyan suddenly felt as if her heart was being tightly grasped by someone, causing her to feel so painful that she could not breathe. She looked at William, and tears welled up in her eyes. Brother, I'm sorry. William didn't understand why this person suddenly did this for no apparent reason, and looked at her with raised eyebrows. I saw her tears falling down. Brother, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I only now realize how stupid I was. I hurt you again and trampled on your sincerity for a stranger who has no blood relationship with me and has a vicious heart. When I participated in the show, I clearly saw through Oscar's true face. But because I didn't dare to face the sins I had committed against you and didn't want to lose the career I loved, I chose to sacrifice you again. This is all my fault. As your elder sister, I am sorry for you. Brother, can you give me a chance to make up for the harm I have done to you? When Chen Yunyan finished saying these words, she was already crying. But William just looked at her coldly. Chen Yunyan, you've been in the entertainment industry for so many years. Don't you know that your acting skills are terrible? You didn't think that just because I used the pseudonym Yunyan to praise you everywhere, you really thought I was your fan and would be deceived by your acting skills, did you? Chen Yunyan shook her head in pain. No, brother, I'm not acting. Believe me, I really know I was wrong. I didn't know what was good for me and wasted your sincerity towards me. I really feel sorry for you, and I really want to make it up to you. Please give me a chance, okay? William looked at Chun Yun and was silent for a moment. His face seemed a little conflicted. This gave Chun Yun a glimmer of hope, and she gradually began to feel excited. However, the next second, her hopes were shattered. William raised the corners of his lips slightly, looked at her with a mocking look, and uttered 2 words softly. Not good. Chun Yun's expectant eyes dimmed in an instant. William continued, Chun Yun, we agreed that if you help me today, I will ask Qin Xian to withdraw the lawsuit against you. I will do what I said. Apart from that, there is nothing more to say to you. Not only you, but everyone in the Qin family is no different from a dead person in my eyes. I will not forgive any of you, nor will I give you any chance to repent. You all, go to hell with all this guilt. After saying that, William opened the car door and got in. Chun Yun was stunned by William's heartless words and stood there in a daze for a long time. By the time she reacted, William's car had already driven away. She might not even have the chance or courage to walk up to William and talk to him the next time she saw him. So, she subconsciously chased after him. William, wait for me, William. Yun. As soon as David and Chen Huaimin came out, they saw Chen Yun chasing William's car like crazy, and someone nearby had already started recording the video. Chen Yun is already at the center of public opinion right now. If people saw her like this, there's no telling what would be spread about her. So the 2 of them rushed over to stop her. Let me go. Chen Yun also wants to pursue William. But David and Chen Huaimin kept holding him tightly. Third sister, calm down. There are people taking photos and recording videos everywhere around here. Think about your identity. Chen Huaimin whispered. Chen Yun shook her head with a painful look on her face. I don't care, I'm already ruined. I just want to tell Brother William now that I know where I went wrong. I ask him to forgive me. If I let him go today, he will never forgive me in the future. David couldn't help it and said sternly, Chen Yun, be quiet. William has already left. How can you chase him? You can't do anything except make people laugh at you now. Chen Yun was stunned by the yelling, and then was half pulled and half dragged into the car by David. After getting in the car, she cried for a long time before she calmed down. When asked by Chen Huaimin, Chen Yun told him all the conversations between her and William. Chen Yun is now filled with guilt towards William. So in the process of narrating the story, she subconsciously brought in her own emotions and even told all the injustices William had suffered in the Chen family. David fell silent after hearing this. Chen Huaimin's eyes were red. At this moment, the 2 of them became even more dissatisfied with Oscar. David became even more annoyed when he saw his 2 daughters crying nonstop. He sent the 2 of them to Chen Wanning and then returned to the company. Have you found out? Who took those photos? He called his assistant Xiao Ma into the office. David felt strange when Dora questioned him with those photos. Dora had been lying in bed, unable to move these days. So how could she know all these things? He had some doubts whether this incident was caused by his rival or someone in the company who brought them down. So he sent Xiao Ma to check it out. Xiao Ma glanced at David, looking somewhat embarrassed. Chairman, this matter is. Tell me what it is. David said impatiently. It was done by the eldest lady, and it was also done by Mr. Chen before. What? David stood up in shock. You mean my own daughter did it? Xiao Ma didn't dare to speak, just nodded. David's face darkened instantly. Are you sure? Xiao Ma handed the tablet over to David, who took it and took a look. The above content is a screenshot of the surveillance video of the private detective hired by Chun Wanning following David. He continued to scroll down and even saw evidence that the courier entered the building where Chun Wanning lived, took the photos, and then delivered them to Dora in the Chun family mansion. David was so angry that his chest heaved violently. He threw the tablet in his hand onto the desk, then rushed out with a dark face. Chapter 183 David and Chun Wanning break up. Dad, why are you here? After Chun Huaimin opened the door, he saw that the person knocking on the door was David, and his eyes were full of surprise. Where is your elder sister? David asked with a dark face. It seems to be in the study. David walked in quickly and rushed in without even knocking at the door. Chun Wanning was reading a document. When she saw David, she put down the document. David took a quick glance and saw that she was looking at the financial report of the Chen group, which confirmed his guess. Dad, you're in such a hurry to come here. Is there something wrong? David stared at Chun Wanning's face. Among his daughters, the eldest daughter looks the most like him. In addition, her personality and behavior are also most like his. So he has always valued this daughter the most. What he didn't expect was that it was this daughter who betrayed him. He snorted coldly and asked, "Did you send someone to follow and investigate me?" Chin Wanting looked at David's angry expression and felt a little depressed. Could it be that he found out about her investigation into his affair? "Dad, did you misunderstand something?" "I'm fine. Why would I follow you and investigate you?" Chun Wanting forced a smile. When David heard this answer, he was filled with disappointment towards Chun Wanting. At this point, "You still won't tell the truth?" He took out his cell phone and sent all the surveillance screenshots of the private detective following him to Chun Wanting's WeChat. "Are you still going to quibble?" After seeing the photo, Chun Wanting felt a chill on her back and immediately said, "Dad, listen to my explanation. I did ask someone to investigate you, but You just what?" David interrupted her angrily. "Ning Ning, you are my father's most beloved daughter. Why do you want to betray me?" Chun Wanting was stunned when she heard this. "Betrayal? How did I betray you?" "What? You hired a private detective to follow me and reported it to your mother. Isn't that a betrayal?" David said angrily. "Chun Wanting, I'm your father. Everything you have today is given by me. I brought you to where you are now. Do you really think I can't see your little tricks?" Chun Wanting was completely stunned. She didn't know why David said these words. Yes, she did ask someone to investigate who David was having an affair with. But other than that, she didn't do anything. "Dad, did you make a mistake? I did investigate the person you had an affair with, but I was worried about you. I was deceived at my age, and I didn't even tell Dora about this." Chun Wanting wanted to explain something, but David didn't give him a chance. "Am I mistaken?" David interrupted sharply. He looked at the aggrieved expression on Chun Wanting's face, and somehow thought that this was Oscar's usual trick, and he became even angrier. "Chun Wanting, stop pretending to be wronged. What's the difference between you and Oscar, that ungrateful wolf? You actually compared me to Oscar?" When Chun Wanting heard David comparing her to Oscar, whom she hated the most, she instantly became angry. "Is there any difference between what you are doing now and Oscar?" "No, you're more hateful than him. At least Oscar and I have no blood relationship, and you are my biological daughter. Your betrayal hurts me more than Oscar's betrayal. I really can't figure out what sins I, David, did in my previous life. Why are all my sons and daughters so ungrateful? You all want to destroy the Chun family, don't you?" Chun Wanting looked at David with a fierce look in his eyes. Her heart filled with sadness and her eyes were misty. "So, in your eyes, I'm a white-eyed wolf who's not even as good as Oscar? Isn't it?" Chun Wanting, have I ever told you that you are not suitable to work in the group in your current situation? And can you blame me for this? If you hadn't done such a shameful thing for a man, and even almost got involved in a murder lawsuit, causing the stock price to plummet, would all this have happened? I ask myself that as a father, I have done my best. I was thinking of letting you return to the group after the incident has passed, but I never expected that you would hold a grudge against me because of this. You knew that your mother and I were getting a divorce, but you still told her about this. Aren't you doing this just to take advantage of this opportunity to make me busy with the group's affairs so that you can return to the group and take charge of the situation again?" Chun Wanting, when you were doing these things, did you ever think about the fact that I am your father? You could have just said what you wanted. Why did you choose a way that would disappoint me the most and hurt me the most? David became angrier and angrier as he spoke, until his entire face turned red. After hearing his accusations, Chun Wanting felt as if her heart was torn apart. So, in the eyes of her biological father, he has always felt disgusted with her because of the mistakes she made in her youth, right? She smiled sadly. "I don't know why you have such a funny idea. I just want to know, when you think of me like this, do you really regard me as your biological daughter?" David was startled when he heard this, and then said impatiently, "Stop talking nonsense here, Chun Wanting. I'm telling you, I'm very disappointed in you now. I will take back all your shares in the group and completely terminate your position until you realize your mistake." "No need," Chun Wanting said lightly. "What did you say?" "I said no need. You don't have to take it back. I will give it all back to you right now. You don't have to wait for me to realize the error of these ridiculous accusations you have put on me. I can't realize it, and I don't want to realize it." As she spoke, Chun Wanting straightened her back and looked at David with sharp eyes. "David, as disappointed as you are in me, I am also disappointed in you. I originally thought that no matter what happened to Dora, I still had a father. But now I realize that I actually didn't have a father for a long time. When I broke up with Dora because of Oscar, you seemed to be very caring and concerned about me. But in fact, you were not on my side at all. You kept saying that Oscar was an ungrateful person. But wasn't this ungrateful person also spoiled by you?" David stopped pretending. Did you really not know how miserable William's life was at home? You know everything. You just don't care. Shut up, shut up, David shouted angrily. Chun Wanning smiled and continued. Now that you realize that William is not as incompetent as you thought and can bring benefits and advantages to the Chin family, you begin to care about William. But William will not look back. So, you pushed all the blame on Dora and Oscar. Even in your heart, we 7 sisters were also at fault. Only you, David, were responsible the least because you were busy with work. David, you are the most hypocritical and selfish person in the entire Chun family. When David heard this, he could no longer bear the anger in his heart. Presumptuous! He roared angrily, then slapped Chin Wanning hard. Chapter 184 Chin Wanning. I don't have a daughter like you anymore. Chin Wanning was hit on the face by David. David, with a mocking expression. What? You're angry because I said it right. Your mother is right. You are a wicked girl. David pointed at Chin Wanning and cursed. You are as vicious as Oscar. If you hadn't seen William being kidnapped but turned a blind eye, would our family have become like this? It's all your fault. You're the one who ruined our family. The sarcastic smile on Chun Wanning's face deepened. Yes, I'm a wicked girl. Because of your and my mother's partiality, I became so vicious at such a young age that I had to watch my biological brother disappear before my eyes. But so what? If you want to blame someone, blame you and my mom for not treating us equally and giving birth to us sisters. As a result, all you can think about is William. Why? David, why can't we please you and your wife after doing so much, but William can get all your love as soon as he is born? Is it just because he has one more fist than us? Don't you think I don't know? William was born less than 2 years ago, and you want to make a will and leave everything in the family to him. David was stunned for a moment. Nonsense. Why did I ever think of making a will and leaving everything to William? Chun Wanning sneered. Don't deny it. I saw you holding William and told my mother about it. David thought for a long time before he remembered what happened. That was the first time William showed his cleverness and wit. He restored a Rubik's Cube that was spinning in a mess and shouted happily, Dad, look. At that time, he felt very proud that his 2-year-old son could do this for the first time, playing with the Rubik's Cube. So he got excited and said to Dora, my David's son is really smart. I have to make a will and leave the Chun group to my son. With my son's intelligence, he will definitely take the Chun group to a higher level. David looked at Chun Wanning, his eyes full of heartache. But that was just a joke I made when I was excited. I didn't really make a will. Everything in the Chun family belongs to you children. Chun Wanning didn't believe this at all and continued. Don't be hypocritical here, David. The reason you didn't make this will is because William was kidnapped a few days later. It's ridiculous that I did so much. I thought you would see me after William left, but I didn't expect that you would bring Oscar back. Later, you even treated Oscar better than William did. We daughters are still scraps. I never treated you as scraps, David argued. Really? Chun Wanning asked back. David, when I left home, you didn't chase Oscar away. When Oscar protected Zhang Qizhen, who molested my 7th sister, you didn't chase him away either. We are obviously your biological blood, but you have been betraying us for Oscar. How do you explain this? After all, don't you think Oscar is a son, and our 7 daughters are just tools to be used for marriage in the future? When David heard this, he was so angry that his chest felt choked up. He pointed at Chun Wanning and was speechless for a long time. But Chun Wanning obviously didn't intend to let him go. Dad, let me tell you one more thing. Chun Wanning raised her red lips. Dora knew about your affair with Yang Yishue. Is it you? David was so angry that his face turned blue. Chun Wanning smiled faintly. Of course it's me. If I don't let Dora know about this, what if you give birth to another brother for me outside? Chun Wanning, you beast. David was so angry that he could hardly stand. David provocatively. She was waiting for the moment when David couldn't hold on any longer. As long as David falls, the Chin family and the Churn group will be in chaos. Dora is in such a condition now that she may not even be able to survive, let alone be stopped. By then, he would be the only one in charge of the Chun family and the Chin group. What she didn't expect was that David suddenly calmed down for some reason. He laughed for no apparent reason, then looked at her with bloodshot eyes. I never thought that I, David, would raise 2 wolves myself. This is ridiculous, really ridiculous. Having said that, he shook his head, turned and walked out. He walked to the door, suddenly stopped, turned around and stared at Chun Wanning's face for a while. Chun Wanning, Not only do you no longer have a father like me, but from now on, I, David, no longer have a daughter like you. Everything in the Chun group has nothing to do with you. You should take care of yourself." After saying that, he turned and left. Chun Wanting looked at his resolute back and clenched her fists in anger, her nails digging deeply into her palms. Her plan failed. Chun Yun Yun and her sisters heard the quarrel between the two clearly in the living room. When they saw David coming out, they all surrounded him. "Dad, how are you?" "Dad, is there some misunderstanding? Why are you and big sister arguing so loudly?" "Yes, Dad, the eldest sister is usually the most sensible. She just has a bad temper. You are a magnanimous person. Don't bother with her." David looked at his three beautiful daughters in front of him, raised his hand, and touched their faces one by one, and smiled sadly. "Don't be afraid, Dad is fine. Dad will take care of the company's affairs in the next few days. When the time comes, you all should go home. Dad has something to announce." When David walked out of Chin Wanning's house and entered the elevator, his back bent instantly. He used to be full of energy, but now he looked like he was 20 years older. After a moment, he slowly walked out of the building and got into the car. At the same time, a camera was pointed at him from a black car not far away. Chapter 185, I Want Your Hand. "Mr. Jiang, I just received news that David has left Chen Wanning's house. He looks very depressed, as if he was stimulated by something." Jiang Shen walked into William's study and reported. After observing for a period of time, William felt that Jiang Shen was a useful person, so he asked him to find a few retired scouts to track and investigate the Chen family members when necessary. Oscar's previous actions in Country Tea were discovered by Jiang Shen's men. As for Chun Wanning's matter, it was William who asked these people to handle it from beginning to end. Obviously, Jiang Shen did not disappoint his expectations, and things went very smoothly. "Depressed?" William murmured, then chuckled. "These two people really didn't disappoint me. This time, they have completely torn their faces apart." With Chun Wanning's vengeful personality, she would never just sit there and wait to die. Even if the father and daughter reconcile in the future, there will always be a huge gap between them, and their relationship will never be the same as before. In fact, William didn't intend to use this incident to deal with Chen Wanning at first, but Chen Wanning was also investigating David's extramarital affair and might want to gain benefits from this incident. Then he naturally would not do as Chen Wanning wished. Anyway, given David's suspicious nature, he would definitely find out who stabbed him in the back. In that case, let Chen Wanning be the sinner. Chen Wanning has been away from the Chen group for some time, and she still has the energy to run her own business. She is really too idle. The ending he planned for his good sister was not so simple. In fact, William was just gambling at the beginning. After all, David was old and had experienced many ups and downs. If he had been calmer, willing to listen to Chen Wanning's explanation or investigate the matter further, his plan might not have worked. But David felt betrayed because he saw Oscar's ugly face. There were already some signs of panic at this time. So after learning that Chen Wanning might have betrayed him, he suddenly became furious and didn't even bother to think about the details. He could only think that his eldest daughter, whom he raised and whom he valued the most, had betrayed him. At this point, things were completely on track as planned by William. Only the closest people know where the knife will hurt the most. As long as David hits Chun Wanning where it hurts the most, Chun Wanning will definitely not swallow her anger. As long as Chun Wanning fights back, the relationship between this selfish father and daughter will be completely destroyed. Just then, Jiang Shen's cell phone rang again. After he answered the phone and heard what the other party reported, his expression changed immediately. "What did you say?" "Lost him." William saw his reaction so big, and after he hung up the phone, he asked, "What's wrong?" "Our people lost Xianyu." Jiang Shen looked ashamed. William pondered for a moment, then said, "It's okay. I expected this result a long time ago. You don't have to blame yourself. Okay, you go out first, Ching Fu, and I have something to discuss." "Yes." After Jiang Shen left, William looked at Cheng Fu. "What do you think of Xianyu?" Cheng Fu frowned slightly. "This person is not simple. He seems to be much more capable than Wu Wei." William nodded. "Indeed, his Taoism is much more profound than Wu Wei." "Then why have I never heard of such a person in Xianmen before?" William thought for a moment and asked, "Have you ever met the Black Mystic Master before? Master Black Xian?" Seeing Cheng Fu's confused look, William knew that he didn't even know what a Black Master was. So he explained to him the difference between a Black Master and an Orthodox Master. Cheng Fu was silent for a moment before he said, "So, is this Xianyu the Black Mystic Master?" You can understand it this way now. His ability is superior to yours. As far as I know, the personalities of black mystic masters are all quite extreme, and they will avenge their enemies. And the way he looked at you when he left was very strange. He must have completely hated you. You never know when he might come after you. When Ching Fu heard this, he felt a chill down his spine. But, Master, isn't he possessed by an evil spirit? This evil spirit is so strong. I saw that he was in so much pain before. Does he still have the energy to come and settle the score with me? It's just a wisp of evil spirit. With his cultivation level, the pain is so severe only because it happens suddenly. I estimate that in a few days, the evil spirit will be forced out of his body. Ching Fu was a little panicked. He had no way to deal with the evil spirit, but this man could actually force the evil spirit out. According to Black Mystic Master's method of cultivation, if one wanted to take away his lifespan or mysterious power, wouldn't it be easy as pie? He swallowed nervously. Master, can you defeat the Xinyu? William sneered disdainfully and said nothing. Ching Fu felt relieved. Then, Master, you must protect your disciple well. William found it funny that he was still playing the victim in front of him, even though he was old. Okay, I know what's going on. For the time being, you should put your investigation into Wu Wei aside for now, and just go out less often when you have nothing to do. After Xianyu left the hospital, he had to take a taxi because he couldn't drive. It wasn't long before he discovered someone was following him. He asked the driver to take a detour for a while, but seeing that he still couldn't get rid of the person, he found a random place to get off the car. He then used the mystical arts to skillfully change his appearance and throw off all the pursuers. At this time, he only thought that the person who followed him was sent by Ching Fu, and he became more determined to teach Ching Fu a lesson. He pulled out his cell phone and made a call, then hailed a taxi. Half an hour later, the vehicle stopped outside a dilapidated building. Not far from the building is a nationally renowned cancer hospital. The people who live here are poor people from other places who come to the cancer hospital for treatment. Xianyu walked into the building and saw the environment inside. His brows immediately frowned. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, it would be hard to imagine that there would be such a place in a first-tier city like the capital. This place is like a corner forgotten by the world. The narrow corridor was filled with a foul and damp smell. Medicine boxes and household garbage from each household were piled up on both sides of the aisle, emitting a disgusting stench. The walls were full of cracks and peeling paint. As I walked along, I could hear the wailing and coughing of patients. Xianyu walked straight to the door of the innermost room and raised his hand to knock. After a moment, a middle-aged woman with a sallow and haggard face opened the door and invited Xianyu in. Medicine bottles were everywhere in the room, and a little boy about 5 or 6 years old was lying on the bed. The little boy was skinny, his hair and eyebrows had fallen out, and his round eyes were lifeless. The woman looked at Xianyu, who was dressed very elegantly, with a hint of anticipation in her eyes. Master, can you really save my son? Xianyu said calmly. If I can't save your son, why would I come all the way to this place? The woman cried for joy and immediately knelt down. Great, Master. Thank you. Thank you for saving my son. Don't thank me so early. I can save your son, but I have one condition. The woman was startled when she heard this, and her heart was immediately filled with worry. Master, my family has no money. My husband doesn't want treatment and has divorced me. Money? Do you think I'm someone who's short of money? Xianyu said disdainfully. As he spoke, he frowned severely. The evil spirit had broken through his restraints and spread from his palm to his forearm. Then, Master, what are your conditions? The woman asked nervously. Xianyu gritted his teeth and looked at the woman's hand. I want your hand. Chapter 186. Are you willing to give me your youth now? Xianyu returned to his villa carrying a black plastic bag and went straight to the basement. After walking through a long corridor, he stopped in front of an iron door and then pressed his palm on the palm print reader beside him. After a beep sound, the iron gate slowly opened. He stepped into the door. There are 9 coffins placed in the house and more than a dozen antique display shelves on 3 walls. Various valuable collectibles are displayed on the antique shelves on both sides, while on the antique shelf in the front, wooden boxes made of wangwali wood of various sizes are neatly arranged. Xianyu walked to a wooden box, opened it, then took out a bloody hand from a black plastic bag and put it in. The blood at the end of the palm had not yet dried, and there was a black talisman stuck on the back of the hand. Xianyu picked up his palm and took a look. The evil spirit was now sealed in the palm of his hand. Although it was still moving, it was very slowly. Shen Yu sneered. I didn't expect that Ching Fu was quite capable. He could even subdue such a powerful, evil spirit. After saying that, he put his palm into the wooden box and then pasted several black talismans on the wooden box before leaving with peace of mind. He took a comfortable shower. After coming out of the bathroom, he looked at the extra fine lines at the corners of his eyes in the mirror, and a hint of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He had finally regained his youth, but now he was being planned to spend his entire lifespan just to get rid of that evil spirit. It's so abominable. Ching Fu, since you have caused me to waste several years of my life, then I will use your lifespan and profound strength to make up for it. However, the most urgent task now is to replenish the deficiencies in this body. After all, in order to make the woman willingly accept the evil spirit in his body and cut off her own palm, he had used up a lot of his mystical energy to erase the tumor in the little boy's head. Thinking of this, he walked out of the bathroom and made a phone call. A moment later, a young man with a pointed face and monkey-like appearance named Monkey came to his villa with more than 20 young, beautiful, and hot women. He sat on the sofa, holding a glass of foreign wine in his hand, crossing his legs, and looking at the women standing in a row in front of him, flirting with him. The monkey said flatteringly, Mr. Gu, how about this batch of goods? Mr. Gu is the name that outsiders have given Shen Yu over the years. Shen Yu smiled slightly and raised his hand to point to 9 women. Then he opened the drawer on the coffee table and took out more than a dozen stacks of cash. The monkey immediately said, those who were not picked just now, take 10,000 yuan each and go back. After these words were spoken, the woman who was originally dejected because she was not selected became even more disappointed. You can get 10,000 without doing anything. If you stay, won't you get more? However, they had already been warned on the way here. This Mr. Gu is a big shot and you must never offend him. So even if they were dissatisfied, they had no choice but to take the money and leave. After leaving the gate of Xuanyu Villa, several people started chattering instantly. What? Even Lin Lin, who is so pretty, was chosen, but I was not. That's right, this is the first time I've been ignored. How come you are so young but your eyesight is so poor? Hearing this, Monkey immediately looked behind him nervously, then shouted, What nonsense are you talking about? Do you know who Mr. Gu is? How dare you act so presumptuous here? Get in the car right now. The women who were speaking shrank their necks when they were yelled at. They dared not say anything more and quickly got into the car. After the vehicle left the villa area, Monkey turned back and warned, You guys, keep your mouth shut from now on. If I hear you talking about customers again, don't blame me for being rude. Several women lowered their heads and apologized cautiously. After a moment, the monkey sighed. In fact, not being selected is a good thing. All the women in this group had just arrived and didn't know who Mr. Gu was. When they heard this, they all looked at the monkey with curiosity. The monkey then spoke quietly. Mr. Gu is indeed generous, but he is also gifted. A seductive-looking woman immediately became interested. Brother, what is Mr. Gu's talent? Is it size or technique? The monkey immediately pointed at her and scolded her with a smile. You little slut, stop being so lustful. I tell you, the fact that he can pick 9 every time proves that he is not an ordinary person. Do you know that Mr. Gu is the only client that he is done with and I have to pick up those girls myself? Go pick him up in person? Himeru looked puzzled. Is he that powerful? He can't even walk. He doesn't have that kind of special fetish, does he? Monkey sneered. No, he's just a capable guy. Every time he's done, none of the girls can stand up. They have to be carried by others. They have to rest for at least a month when they go back. If it weren't for the boss' insistence, I wouldn't want to do business with him. After hearing this, everyone silently clamped their legs together. Let me explain this on 2 sides. At this time in Shen Yu's villa, the women who were left behind lined up and stood in front of Shen Yu. Shen Yu sighed softly. You are so young. Are you willing to give me your youth now? Sure. The lights in the villa were on for 3 days and 3 nights. When the monkey came to pick them up, everyone looked exhausted. Some even fell into a coma. Only Shen Yu felt refreshed, even more energetic than 3 days ago. Mr. Gu is still as amazing as ever. The monkey praised with a flattering look on his face. Shen Yu didn't say anything, but took out a box from the room and threw it to him. The old rules, 100,000 per person, and the remaining 100,000 is yours. Thank you, Mr. Gu, for your reward, the monkey immediately said with a smile. Shen Yu lit a cigar and waved his hand. Take everyone away. Okay. Monkey immediately called his men in to take the man away. Shen Yu looked at the messy living room, recalled the feelings of the past 3 days, turned on the front camera of his mobile phone, and looked at himself, who was obviously a few years younger and had a rosy face. He was very satisfied. Now, it's time to get down to business. He called Oscar and asked, "Is your adoptive mother still alive?" Chapter 187. Give up William and treat me as the only son of the Chin family. Oscar has been tortured so much these days that he has lost a lot of weight. Dora has been suffering from the pain of ghost spirit invading her body, and she also has some resentment towards Oscar. She was filled with regret. If she had believed William, she wouldn't have to suffer this torture. Oscar was worried that Dora would completely dislike him like everyone else, so he took care of her every step of the way these days. Dora was in so much pain that she could only sleep for 1 or 2 hours a day, and he endured it with her. There were several times when he even wished that Dora would just die in pain so that he wouldn't have to suffer like this. At this moment, he really regretted it. If he had known that things would turn out like this, he would not have come up with any plan. He should have brought Shen Yu here directly to remove the evil spirit from Dora. In this way, he wouldn't have to suffer like this now. And there were a few more people in the Chun family who disliked him. Chun Yin and Chun Ilan no longer pay much attention to him. He is really isolated and helpless in the Chin family. Whenever he thought of this, he hated William to the core. If it weren't for this bastard's tricks, his plan would have succeeded long ago. We wouldn't be in such a helpless situation now. Over the past few days, he has tried to contact Shen Yu many times. But no one knew what Shen Yu was busy with, and he didn't answer his call. He was almost desperate, thinking that Shen Yu would be just like Wu Wei and would not help him again. He was so angry that he scolded him several times. So when he received Shen Yu's call today, he was very excited. After hanging up the phone, he immediately ran to Dora's bed excitedly. "Mom, I can finally save you." After Oscar told Dora the good news, he waited anxiously downstairs in the hospital for half an hour. After Shen Yu arrived, he looked at Oscar's haggard appearance and didn't say anything. He directly asked him to take him to Dora's ward. "Mom, Master Xuan Yu is here. He will definitely get rid of the evil spirit in you this time." Dora no longer had the strength to speak. She had no other choice but to pin her hopes on Shen Yu and nodded with difficulty. Shen Yu took action without saying a word. He raised his hand and threw a talisman at Dora's chest, then began to chant some magic spells. After a while, Dora felt the pain in her body getting worse. A ball of black, ghostly energy was rampaging over her body. She screamed in pain. At this time, Shen Yu's forehead was also covered with fine beads of sweat. Oscar stood aside and watched, his heart in his throat, and he kept repeating to himself, "I must succeed this time." Fortunately, this time, Shen Yu did not let him down. A few minutes later, Dora suddenly opened her mouth and screamed, and a ball of black air rushed out of her mouth. Shen Yu immediately threw out a talisman, wrapping up the ghost energy tightly, and then put away the talisman, which had been rolled into a small ball. "Master, is this successful?" Oscar asked nervously. Shen Yu smiled and said, "Of course. I told you that I would help your mother get rid of the evil spirit. If you are worried, you can ask your mother if she still feels pain." "Mom, are you okay?" Oscar immediately grabbed Dora's hand. Dora didn't say anything, but felt it quietly. Indeed, the unbearable pain in her body was gone. She now felt as if she had returned to the time when she didn't know what ghost energy was. She was so excited that tears welled up in her eyes. "No, it doesn't hurt anymore." Oscar cried with joy. "Good. That's great." After getting rid of the ghost aura, Shen Yu no longer needed to stay here. Oscar walked him out. "Master, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I might have really left the Chin family this time." Oscar looked at Shen Yu with gratitude. Shen Yu smiled faintly. "Oscar, as far as I know, since William left the Chin family, not only have you never taken any advantage of him, but you have even suffered heavy losses many times, right?" Oscar thought about it, and a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. "Indeed. I don't know what's wrong with this bastard." After leaving the Chin family, his personality changed drastically. He used to care about the Chin family the most, but later he treated everyone like trash. Even when the Chin family wanted to take him back, he refused to come back. At this point, he suddenly thought of something and added, "And I don't know what's going on. He's obviously a bumpkin from the mountains, but now all kinds of big shots are gathering around him and treating him very well. I really don't know what kind of magic potion he has fed these idiots." After hearing these words, Shen Yu fell silent. His intuition told him that William was not a simple person. He even once suspected that William might also be a master of metaphysics. But he checked and found that William did not have any mysterious power. He was just an ordinary person. But what he didn't know was that William was not without Schwanli, but his Schwanli was the power of a heavenly master, which was one dimension higher than the Schwanli of ordinary Shinsher like them. As long as he intends to hide, it would be impossible to find out something unless another heavenly master comes. At this time, Shen Yu guessed that William's transformation would be so great that there must be a reason for his success. Although he looked down on Ching Fu, it must be said that Ching Fu's status among orthodox Taoist masters was still very high. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so respected by the upper class. Since Ching Fu can help William change all this, let's get rid of Ching Fu. Okay, you don't have to think about these things. You should first think about how to win back the Chun family's favor. Shen Yu said seriously. Oscar's expression turned a little gloomy when he heard this. But, Master, not only do my heartless sisters no longer treat me as their brother, but even David, the head of the family, completely hates me. I don't know what will happen to Dora. I really don't know what to do now. Can you help me? Shen Yu smiled faintly. How do you want me to help you? Oscar thought for a moment before saying, It's easy to deal with the others. I have a way to make them hold me in their hands again. But the key is David. He is the backbone of the Chin family. But now he is obsessed with his biological son, William. He thinks that I drove William away. He just can't stand me. So I need you, Master, to help me deal with David. I know David. He's full of calculations. In his eyes, there is only profit. As long as he can see that my value is higher than William, he will definitely give up William and regard me as the only son of the Chin family again. Shen Yu looked at Oscar's face, was silent for a moment, and then raised the corners of his lips. Although Oscar had caused him to be plotted against before, he still liked Oscar's ruthlessness. Okay, I'll help you. Chapter 188 Chin Group must belong to her beloved son. After Dora got rid of the evil spirit, she rested in the hospital for 2 more days before being discharged. She now just felt relaxed all over, and everything was so beautiful. God knows how many times she thought she was going to die in these days. And Oscar had been staying by her bedside all the time these days, which made her no longer mind his previous calculations. But in fact, she didn't put these things behind her. She was just forcing herself not to think about them. She didn't want to face this matter, for fear that her beloved son would be regarded as an ungrateful person by others. After returning to the Chun family mansion, Dora sat on a lounge chair in the yard, basking in the sun, feeling so comfortable. Mom, have some fruit. My son is sensible. Dora looked at Oscar, who brought a plate of cut fruits, and the kindness in her eyes almost overflowed. Oscar smiled, put the fruit on the small round table beside him, then stood behind Dora and massaged her shoulders. Are you feeling well, Mom? Dora closed her eyes and smiled. It feels good. Mommy feels weak all over. You can give me a massage. That's good. Oscar's voice sounded a little muffled. A moment later, Dora felt a drop of water suddenly hit her forehead. She opened her eyes in surprise, met Oscar's red eyes, and then sat up immediately. Son, what's wrong with you? Oscar raised his hand in panic and wiped away his tears. No, it's okay. You said it was okay, but you were already crying. Dora pulled Oscar to sit next to her and gently wiped the tears from his face. Baby, stop crying. Tell Mom what happened to you. Did someone bully you? Oscar hurriedly shook his head. No, no one bullied me. I just felt bad. What's wrong? Why do you feel so bad for no reason? Mom, you suffered so much because of me. My brother had already helped you get rid of the evil spirit before, but I was too smart and insisted on asking Master Xuanyu to help you get rid of the evil spirit again. As a result, you were in pain for several days. I really blame myself. Dora touched the back of Oscar's head and said, Silly child, isn't Mommy okay now? Oscar was silent for a moment, then turned to look at Dora. Mom, I really didn't mean to do that. I did go to country tea, but I really didn't go there to eat, drink, and have fun. I just heard that Master Xianyu was in country tea, so I looked for him everywhere. But you know, Mom, I'm just a high school student. How could Master Xuanyu be willing to see me? I had no choice but to take Master Xuanyu's men with me to eat, drink, and have fun everywhere, and curry favor with them, so that they would be willing to take me to see Master Xuanyu. I was concerned about your safety at the time, so I had no choice but to take them out to have fun. In the end, they had almost used up all my savings, and then they told me that Master Xuanyu was actually in China. I don't know what happened to those photos. I was clearly not the only one there, but when they were taken, I was the only one living a life of extravagance. Dora felt so distressed when she saw Oscar's tears of grievance falling. The only remaining concern disappeared without a trace in an instant. Silly son, don't be sad. Mom knows everything. Your third sister is from the entertainment industry. She knows best how to find angles to take photos to frame someone. This must be because she has a grudge against you, so she did this on purpose. Oscar was silent for a moment and shook his head. Mom, I believe in my third sister. She is not that kind of person. Not your third sister? Oscar nodded. Yes, I also thought at first that third sister was unhappy with me, so she deliberately found the angle and edited the photos to create those photos. But later I went online and saw that after third sister left that day, she was talking to brother downstairs and crying as she chased after brother's car, as if she was begging him for something. Afterwards, someone on the internet said that my brother asked lawyer Ching to withdraw the lawsuit and not sue my third sister, so I was sure at that time that my third sister definitely did not do this. Dora thought for a moment and gritted her teeth and said, William, it's that little bastard again. Oscar lowered his head and said nothing, but the slightly upturned corners of his mouth and the sinister eyes revealed the pride in his heart. Oscar's excuse was actually full of loopholes, but he was not worried at all that Dora would question it. Because Dora is really stupid. Even if he didn't explain anything and just stayed by her side, she would convince herself that he was not as bad as they said. And Dora did not disappoint him. She was filled with relief at this moment, thinking that the son she had carefully raised would definitely not be an ungrateful person. Mom, can you please not divorce Dad? Oscar suddenly raised his head and looked at Dora with tears in his eyes. Dora was stunned for a moment, then asked, Why are you talking about this? Mom, actually Dad wants to divorce you because you ignored your own safety and insisted on transferring the ghost energy to you. This is all my fault. If there was no ghost energy in me, the following things would not have happened. If you really divorced, I would blame myself for the rest of my life. Dora looked at Oscar and her eyes turned red. Oscar continued, Mom, I know that Dad is very dissatisfied with us now. I will slowly make up for all this. I can't bear to lose Dad, and I don't want to see you alone when you are old. Dora looked at Oscar, his eyes full of love for her, and sighed softly. Don't worry, son. Mom and your dad won't get divorced. She's not stupid. She is already old, and getting a divorce now would be a joke. And with David's cunning personality, she would definitely not get much of the property in the end. She has been married to David for so many years and has given birth to so many children for him. Moreover, if it weren't for her, the Chen family would have gone bankrupt long ago. Today, the Chen group still exists, and it can be said that most of the credit goes to her. The Chen group must belong to her beloved son, and she will not let anyone take away what belongs to her and her son. After being tortured by ghost spirits for some time, she felt like she had died once. David's indifference to her completely broke her heart, and the little affection she had for David had now been completely worn out. Since David insists on keeping a woman outside, let him do it. All she needs now is money to help her son protect everything at home, and nothing else matters. As for her daughters, if they are willing to be filial to her, she will naturally not treat them unfairly in the future. If they were all like Chen Wanning's 3 evil daughters and refused to acknowledge her as their mother, then she would just pretend that she had never given birth to them. Chapter 189, Oscar's strategy for David. Chen Group. Chairman's office. David finished a day's work, exhausted both physically and mentally. Assistant Xiaoma knocked on the door and entered the room. Chairman, do you need me to order food for you? David glanced at his watch and shook his head. By the way, haven't you got the invitation to this year's Imperial Capital Merchant Alliance's takeoff night yet? The Imperial Capital Business Alliance is a business alliance established by a group of companies at the top of the Imperial Capital Pyramid. Every year, they hold a takeoff night where founders from various companies attend to exchange information, look for opportunities for cooperation, and share resources. Today, the Chun Group is in a declining state and has fewer partners. If it does not find new partners, its situation will only get worse. So David set his sights on this year's Imperial Capital Business Alliance's takeoff night. If he could get an invitation letter and get 1 or 2 big shots in there, then his Chin family might be able to make a comeback. Xiaoma said anxiously, Sorry, Chairman, I haven't received the invitation letter yet. David sighed. Forget it. This is really difficult for you. This alliance is just a small circle. In the past, our Chun group couldn't squeeze into that circle. What's more, so many things have happened this year. The market value of the group has been cut in half. People look down on us even more. I'm thinking of other ways. After saying that, David sighed self-deprecatingly. Thinking of other solutions? What other options did he have? At this moment, the cell phone next to him rang. It was Dora calling. He frowned and hung up without thinking. But Dora was very persistent and called several times in a row, and David finally answered the call. At the dining table in the Chun family mansion, Dora smiled and scooped a bowl of soup for David and placed it in front of him. "Hubby, come have a bowl of soup. This soup is so delicious." David glanced at her with a cold look, then put down his chopsticks. No need. He was going home tonight only because Dora had called him and told him she wanted to talk about the divorce. He thought Dora had thought it through and knew that their years of marriage had come to an end, so she agreed to the divorce. But when he got home, she never mentioned divorce and even prepared a sumptuous dinner with a smile. This left him very puzzled. Dora, because of the problems at the company and at home some time ago, and used the divorce issue to control her severely, she only acted cautiously on the surface, and her attitude was not as flattering or even a little fawning as it is now. It seems at this time, she was really panicked. David sneered in his heart. If this woman had known this would happen, why would she have done that in the first place? He was now completely fed up with her stupidity, and no matter how she tried to please him, he would not relent. He is determined to divorce. "Dora, you don't have to be like this. I came back today to discuss the divorce with you. Now that we have finished our meal, we should talk about business." "Dad." When Oscar heard this, he immediately spoke up to dissuade him. Unexpectedly, David would think of all the disgusting things he had done whenever he saw him, and he immediately scolded him mercilessly. "Shut up. You have no right to speak here." Oscar's eyes instantly turned red, his face full of grievance. Seeing this, Dora almost couldn't help but have a fit on the spot. However, she thought of her ultimate goal and suppressed her anger. "Son, go back to your room first. Mom has something to talk to your dad about." Oscar nodded aggrievedly, and before leaving, he did not forget to remind her, "Mom, have a good talk with Dad. Don't quarrel." "Mom knows." Dora smiled and nodded. David felt sick when he saw the deep affection between the mother and son. After Oscar left, Dora and David were the only ones left in the huge restaurant. Dora no longer pretended, put away the smile on her face, and said coldly, "David, I won't say more. I only have one thing to say now. I can't divorce you." David sneered. "This is not up to you. I've had enough of you. If you firmly disagree with the divorce, then I will file for divorce." Dora looked at David with an indifferent expression, then crossed her arms and said contemptuously, "As long as you are not afraid of the scandal of you cheating on a pair of biological mother and daughter being exposed, you can sue them at will." "You!" David's face turned blue with anger. Dora smiled faintly. "Why bother? David, we are all old and have been through so many ups and downs for so many years. Why do we have to embarrass ourselves when we are just living a good life? Is my life too miserable?" David slammed the table in anger. "What have you done to this family? Your sons are bent on killing us. How many of your 7 daughters still recognize you as their mother? Yes, I cheated on you, but you forced me to do that. If you hadn't been causing trouble for me every day, would I not even want to go home?" Dora sneered. "If you can't control the weight of your pants, don't push the responsibility onto others." "David, I'll say this one last time. You can divorce me if you want, but you can leave the house with nothing. Don't even think about it." David pointed at Dora's nose and yelled. Dora said calmly, "It's okay if you don't want to leave the house. We can just keep living together. It's up to you to keep any woman outside. I won't care, and I'm too lazy to care. There's only one thing. Don't spend too much money on that woman. After all, you have so many daughters. Think about what I say." After saying that, Dora got up and left. David looked at her back and was stunned for a moment. What's wrong with this woman? How did it suddenly become like this? Didn't she want to die the last time he cheated on her? How come you have completely accepted this now? Does she have some conspiracy? Or is it simply because I'm too old to do that? David thought about it for a long time, but still had no clue. It was already getting late, and he had been busy all day, so he didn't plan to leave and decided to just find a guest room to rest for the night. He had just finished taking a shower and lay down on the bed when there was a knock on the door. He thought it was a servant coming to deliver something, so he shouted, "Come in." Unexpectedly, the person who opened the door and came in was Oscar. "What are you doing here?" David's face turned cold instantly. Oscar said timidly, "Dad, I have something to give you." "No need, I don't need anything. You can keep it for yourself or give it to your mother." David interrupted Oscar coldly. Oscar stood there with his head down, looking at a loss. David is annoyed just by seeing him now, not to mention these hypocritical looks. Go out. I need to rest. Oscar raised his head, hesitated for a moment, and as if he had mustered up the courage, he said, Dad, I know you have a lot of misunderstandings about me now, and I don't know how to explain it, but what I want to tell you is that no matter what, you are the most important person to me. In my heart, you will always be the best dad. This is something I wanted to give you. He placed an extremely exquisite black envelope on David's bed. I know that my family's company has been having a lot of troubles recently. I feel that this thing should be able to help you. I hope you can give me a chance to make amends. David glanced at the familiar logo on the envelope, was shocked, and quickly picked up the envelope and opened it. Inside was an invitation. Invitation to the Imperial Capital Business Alliance's takeoff night. David's hands were shaking with excitement. How? How did you get this invitation? Chapter 190 Rome Family. Did Oscar get the invitation to this year's takeoff night? William looked at the invitation in his hand with a slightly surprised expression. Mr. Zhou nodded. It was Mr. Rong who personally sent it out. Mr. Zhou came here today specifically to deliver an invitation to William. His company is considered to be at the top of the pyramid of the imperial capital, not to mention that he also serves as the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Of course, you can send invitations to anyone you want. Old man Rong. William frowned slightly. Is it Rong Wenyao, the chairman of Rong Group? Yes. William was silent for a moment, then chuckled. Oscar is quite capable. He actually managed to get close to the Rong family. There are 4 major wealthy families in the capital. They are the Zhou family, the Han family, the He family, and the Rong family. In fact, the position of the Rong family originally belonged to the Qin family, but as Mr. Qin retired to the second line and Qin Xian devoted himself to his career as a lawyer, the position of the Qin family was gradually occupied by the Rong family, which emerged more than 10 years ago. Like the Qin family, the Rong family also started out in the underworld. However, the Qin family has long since retired from illegal business, but the Rong family is said to still have some unclean activities behind the scenes. Mr. Rong had a son who was even killed by someone seeking revenge a few years ago. William didn't know much about the Rong family and had no intention of making friends with them. Such a family has too many sins and is not suitable for close friendship. Teacher Xiao Jiang, if you don't want Oscar to attend this dinner, I can directly cancel his invitation. As the president of the Chamber of Commerce, it would be easy for Mr. Zhou to cancel an invitation. The worst that can happen is that I'll offend the Rong family, which is not a big deal. In his eyes, William is worth 100 Rong families. After all, William is now his savior. William about this. No need since Oscar wants to go. Let him go. William said lightly. Then Mr. Jiang, are you free to attend? Speaking of this, Mr. Zhou became a little excited. I have several friends who have heard that you are very knowledgeable about antiques, and they all want to meet you. Every year during the Soaring Night, there is a charity auction, and there are many good things. William's eyes lit up slightly when he heard this. In fact, even if there was no so-called charity auction, he would have gone. It is impossible for Oscar to rely on the Rong family on his own, and the only person around him who has some ability is Shen Yu. A family that does some shady business behind the scenes, and a black mystic master who is almost an evil cultivator. It sounds like they might be in the same group. He wanted to find out the origins of this Shen Yu. It would be better to use the Rong family as a breakthrough point first. At the same time, Rong family. Has Oscar confirmed the people who will be attending the dinner? At the same time, Rong family mansion. Rong Wenyao was sitting behind the desk wearing a tang suit. Rong Wenyao was sitting behind a desk in a tang suit. In his deep eye sockets, his pair of hawk-like eyes were still extremely sharp, revealing a chilling light that made people shudder. Despite his advanced age, his posture is still upright, his spine is as straight as a pine tree, and he exudes an invisible aura. It was the ruthlessness and determination that had been precipitated through countless power struggles and life-and-death fights. Have Oscar as guest for the dinner been chosen? He asked. It's confirmed. He will attend with his father David. Rong Wenyao's third son Rong, Sanwi replied. Rong Wenyao nodded. Remember to entertain the father and son well and give them more benefits. Rong Sanwi was puzzled. Dad, Chen Group is just a small company. Scandals have been rife recently, and its market value has been cut in half. Why should we think so highly of them? Rong Wenyao glanced at him calmly and said nothing. Rong Sanwi was immediately frightened by his father's cold eyes and broke out in a cold sweat. He hurriedly said, Dad, I know. Chapter 191 David in Despair. David instantly changed his attitude towards Oscar, because of an invitation letter. The two returned to their previous state of loving father and filial son. In order to attend the Imperial Capital takeoff night, David specially asked the luxury store to send the dress to Oscar's home for selection, and even paid a large sum of money to invite a famous stylist in the industry to come to his home to serve Oscar. At this time, Oscar was wearing a white suit, a black bow tie, and his hairstyle was done in the most popular style of the time, looking like a young master of a top aristocrat. The moment he walked out of the room, Dora couldn't hide the pride in her eyes. "Good looking, my son is so good looking." Oscar smiled shyly, then looked at David. "Dad, do you feel okay?" David walked up to Oscar with a smile, helped him adjust his bow tie with a loving look, and then patted him on the shoulder. "Yes, you are worthy of being my David's son." Dora looked at the scene of loving father and filial son in front of her and smiled with relief. Okay, it's almost time, let's go out." The father and son hurried out the door. Before David got into the car, Dora reminded him, "David, behave yourself. Your son worked so hard to get you the invitation. Don't let him down." David's eyes flashed with displeasure, but he still smiled and replied, "Don't worry." This year's Imperial Capital Business Alliance's takeoff night was held at the famous Ziyu Manor in the suburbs of Beijing. Because all the guests attending the banquet were either rich or noble, the security work was done extremely strictly. Before entering the manor, you can see professional security personnel checking every person entering the manor. After passing through numerous security checks, David and Oscar finally entered the banquet hall. They arrived fairly early. At this time, only about half of the people attending the banquet had arrived. Some of them are familiar faces to David, but most of these people are big shots whom David cannot get in touch with on a daily basis. After all, with the Chun family's financial resources, they can only be regarded as a third-rate family in the wealthy circle of the imperial capital today. In addition to the things that have happened during this period, if there is no way to resolve them, I am afraid that we will not even be considered a third-rate family. David looked at those high-spirited bosses gathered together chatting and laughing, and then thought that he had been in for a while, and no one even came to say hello. He felt inexplicably nervous. Although he can now enter the banquet, he knows in his heart that this may not allow him to lead the Chun group to a successful comeback. The specific situation depends on whether he can find new partners here or attract new investment. But considering the current situation of the Chun family, it is a bit difficult. But he had no other choice now and could only face the challenge head-on. As for where the invitation letter came from, Oscar told David that he didn't know either. The invitation letter was sent to him by someone else, and he didn't even know who the sender was. Although David was a little suspicious, Oscar insisted that he didn't know and there was nothing he could do. After all, having the invitation would be beneficial to him, so he brought Oscar over. If I could meet the person who gave Oscar the invitation, I could get close to him. As time passed, more and more people came to the banquet hall. The sound of talking and laughing also became louder. David could no longer sit still. If he didn't try to get close to people now, when there were more people around, he might not even have the chance to get close to them. So he walked to a small table with a glass of wine. He knew almost everyone there. Boss Zhao, Boss Jiang, Boss Li, Boss Fan. What a coincidence to meet you here. Hearing the voice, the four turned around and looked at David, their eyes full of confusion. "Mr. Jiang, I'm sorry, you are?" Although David felt embarrassed, he still introduced himself with a smile. "I am David, the chairman of Chun Group." As he spoke, he took out his business card and handed one to each person. Xiao Fan is always the youngest among these people and knows something about things on the internet. "David, are you Chen Yunyun's father?" When David heard this, he thought this person was a fan of Chen Yunyun and immediately said, Yes, Yunyun is my daughter." "Why? Mr. Fan knows my daughter." Mr. Fan smiled and said, "I can't say that I know him. I've only eaten melons with him a few times." "Mr. Chun, your family has been quite lively recently." David looked at the half-smile on Mr. Fan's face and realized that he had misunderstood. This guy is not Chen Yunyun's friend at all, but is mocking him. His heart sank, but he didn't dare to get angry in front of her, so he could only smile and say, "These are all children who are ignorant and have caused trouble. I'm also worried. By the way, when I just came here, I heard that you were just discussing next year's cooperation. We at Chen's are also very interested in the new direction you were talking about recently. I wonder if there's a chance for us to work together." After these words were spoken, the faces of the older people turned a little stiff. Mr. Fan continued, "Mr. Chun, given the current situation of the Chun Group, do you still have the mind to expand new business?" David smiled dryly. "It's normal for a listed company to have ups and downs, isn't it? but it won't affect the foundation. Mr. Chen, I'm sorry, we still have things to discuss. If there is an opportunity for cooperation in the future, we will contact you. Mr. Zhao smiled politely and ordered him to leave. Yes, Mr. Chen, you have too many things to do at home. Why don't you finish your housework first? After saying this, Mr. Fan stopped looking at David. The others also withdrew their gazes. No matter how thick-skinned David was, he couldn't stay there any longer, so he had to move away and try to get close to another group of people. In recent years, a phrase has become very popular on the internet. Don't force your way into a circle you can't get into. This is David's true portrayal at this moment. His face was frozen with smile, although he was no longer ridiculed like Mr. Fan, and even these big guys were polite and considerate to him. But he knew that this was only because they had become very smart. In the absence of a conflict of interest, they don't even bother to offend someone they look down upon. Oscar stood alone at a small, empty, round table, looking at David's repeated setbacks, and he felt an inexplicable sense of satisfaction in his heart. David always acted superior in front of him, and this was the first time he saw him so miserable. Although he could help him now, he didn't want to do so. Only things gained through humiliation can be considered valuable. On the other hand, David was rejected again, and he felt like he was about to collapse. He picked up another glass of wine from the tray of a passing waiter and drank it all in one gulp of depression. At this moment, a hearty laugh suddenly rang out in the hall. Chun boy. David looked in the direction of the voice and saw a big shot whom he had only met a few times walking towards Oscar with a smile on his face. Chun boy, when did you arrive? D192 Jong, how about I adopt you as my adopted son?